Welcome to In the Zone, Mastering the Art of Flow, an enlightening journey crafted by Mindful Literary. Prepare to delve into the transformative world of flow, a state of optimal experience where time seems to vanish, creativity soars, and your potential is unleashed. Have you ever felt stuck, longing for change, and eager to embrace the unknown? This audiobook is your call to adventure. Together, we will uncover the secrets of flow, explore its characteristics, and learn how to integrate it into your daily life. Imagine harnessing the power of now, eliminating distractions, and immersing yourself deeply in your passions. In this audiobook, we'll ride the waves of creativity, navigate life's challenges with resilience, and harness the power of present-moment awareness. You'll discover the art of deep focus, journey within to uncover your inner potential, and find balance between mind, body, and spirit. We'll also explore the science behind flow, understand its neurological and psychological foundations, and see how it enhances productivity. Embracing impermanence, committing to growth, and confronting fear will become part of your path to mastery. You'll learn to fuel your pursuits with passion and live with purpose. Through stories, practical tips, and insights, In the Zone will guide you to live in flow, embrace the uncertain future, and share this gift with others. Join us on this journey, and let's master the art of flow together, creating a life filled with peak experiences and boundless creativity. Chapter 1: The Call to Adventure. Feeling stuck. There comes a time in everyone's life when the path forward appears obscured, like a fog rolling in over a serene meadow. You feel you're trudging through an endless marshland, each step heavier than the last. It's as if you're running in a dream, but moving in slow motion. Trust me, I've been there. More times than I care to admit. But believe it or not, those moments of stillness are universal. It's not about if you'll face them, but when. Let me share a small story. A few years ago, I found myself at a crossroads in my career. I had a stable job, a predictable routine, but something was missing. The spark I once felt had dimmed, replaced by monotony. I spent my hours at work thinking about what could have been, plagued by what-ifs. It felt like I was in quicksand. The more I struggled, the deeper I sank. Surprisingly, I later discovered a study by Dr. Susan Krauss-Whitborn, a professor of psychological and brain sciences, which stated that feeling stuck isn't just a personal failing, but a predictable stage in adult development. People commonly encounter this in their mid-30s to 50s, questioning their choices and fearing stagnation. It was a relief to know I wasn't alone, nor was I making it up. All around me, people masked their own inertia behind smiles and small talk. But this isn't just some scientific realization. The ancient texts of Buddhism speak of dukkha, which translates to suffering or discontent. According to Buddha, this dissatisfaction is inherent to life. What a refreshing concept, right? That it's okay to feel out of sorts. Acknowledging our struggles is a massive leap toward understanding and fixing them. So, here's the crux. The sense of inertia you're feeling is not the end of the road. It's a signpost indicating growth is needed. The fog might be thick now, but it's merely a precursor to clarity. Each barrier, every challenge we face, is like a piece of the puzzle leading us to our true selves. When you hit a wall, remember, it's a wall that countless others have faced and overcome. This chapter sets the stage for what's to come. Recognizing that feeling stuck can catalyze change already set something in motion. We are on a shared journey, and the road ahead promises transformation, no matter how obscured it may now appear. Lean into this discomfort. It's the first stirrings of progress. The gears are, even now, starting to turn. The desire for change. Have you ever felt a quiet but persistent nudge from somewhere deep within, whispering that it's time for something new? That feeling, subtle as it may be, is the voice of your inner self urging for transformation. It happens to the best of us. You might be sipping your morning coffee, staring at the old wallpaper of your cozy kitchen, when suddenly, like an epiphany, you realize things need to change. Whether it's your job, your routine, or even just your attitude toward life, that sense of unease is your inner compass pointing towards growth. Consider the story of my friend Jenny. Jenny was stuck in a job that drained her soul, day after day. She had dreams of becoming an artist, but never gave them much thought. Or so she told herself. It was only when she started having sleepless nights, her mind fluttering between colors and canvases, that she acknowledged the longing for change. That gentle discontent grew louder and louder until she couldn't ignore it anymore. What Jenny experienced isn't unique. Psychologists have long talked about the concept of cognitive dissonance, the mental discomfort experienced when holding two contradictory beliefs or values. In Jenny's case, her current job and her unfulfilled aspiration to be an artist were at odds. This internal conflict is actually a signpost pushing us toward alignment and growth. Just like Jenny, you too might find yourself in a state of cognitive dissonance, and that's a good thing. It's a signal from your brain that things are out of balance and need to be recalibrated. From a spiritual perspective, change is often seen as a journey of the soul. Many ancient teachings emphasize that personal growth is an essential part of human existence. The Buddha spoke of impermanence as the core nature of life. Nothing stays the same, and clinging to the status quo only creates suffering. When you allow yourself to embrace change, you align with the natural flow of the universe. However, recognizing the need for change is just the first step. Acting on it requires courage, which often feels like stepping off the edge of a cliff. And it is here, at this precipice, that most people falter. The fear of the unknown, the comfort of familiar misery, holds them back. But what if I told you that the very fear of falling is the same energy that wings our dreams to soar higher? That brings me to a personal anecdote. Years ago, I found myself in a town where every day felt like a scene from Groundhog Day. I loved the people and the tranquility, but deep inside, I knew I needed more stimulation, more life. My decision to move wasn't easy, but it led to new friendships, opportunities, and a life enriched with vibrant experiences. This move, which once seemed daunting, became the catalyst for a more fulfilling life chapter. Scientific studies have shown that taking risks and embracing new experiences enhance brain function. Neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to reorganize itself, is heightened when we engage in new activities, ultimately making us more adaptable and resilient. In other words, opening yourself up to change not only evolves your soul, but literally rewires your brain to handle life better. So, listen to that inner nudge. Acknowledge your cognitive dissonance. Embrace the spiritual teachings that call for growth. Remember, pursuing change is not about reckless abandon, but intentional action. Few things are more human than the desire for self-improvement. It's okay to be afraid, but let that fear fuel your bravery. The edge of transformation is a thrilling place to be, and the first brave step can lead to an enriched life you never knew was possible. And just as I took that brave step out of my comfort zone, Jenny too left her draining job. Today, she creates mesmerizing art pieces, living a life she's always dreamed of. Change is not only possible, it's a testament to the human spirit and its unending capacity to evolve. And maybe, just maybe, it all starts with listening to that small, yet forceful whisper within you. Embracing the unknown. I've always been fascinated by the unknown. As a kid, it was the forest behind my house, a labyrinth of trees and shadows that seemed to stretch infinitely. My parents forbade me from venturing too deep, recounting tales of wild animals and hidden dangers. Naturally, that's exactly where I wanted to go. My first trip beyond the familiar walking paths was nothing short of exhilarating. Every rustle in the underbrush was a creature of myth come alive, every distant hoot an echo of ancient mysteries. The more I wandered, the more I realized that fear and excitement are two sides of the same coin. As I grew older, the unknown transformed from physical places to life's intangible journey. It never ceased to amaze me how stepping into unknown situations, a new job, a distant country, even a surprising friendship, could jolt my understanding of existence. Science offers a reassuring perspective on this. It teaches us that uncertainty is a fundamental part of nature. Quantum mechanics, for instance, is built on the principle that we cannot know everything about a particle's state at once. Embracing this randomness can be a liberating experience, revealing the fluidity and possibilities inherent in our lives. Yet, the unknown is also profoundly spiritual. The philosopher Soren Kierkegaard once said, "Life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards." It's a nugget of wisdom that came to life for me during a solo trek in the Himalayas. There, dwarfed by the magnanimity of snow-capped peaks and endless skies, I encountered a profound sense of my own smallness and potential. The mountains neither cared for my accomplishments nor my failures. They stood as silent sentinels to the endless parade of time. In their presence, I found solace in uncertainty, realizing that not knowing what comes next is what makes every moment precious. It's easy to cling to routine, to seek comfort in the known. But if my adventures, both literal and metaphorical, have taught me anything, it's that the most rewarding experiences come from stepping off the beaten path. Whether it's starting a conversation with a stranger or moving to a new city without a mapped-out plan, embracing the unknown invites growth and transformation. Those leaps into uncertainty are where true magic happens. Each step into the unfamiliar is an invitation to discover anew, not just the world, but facets of ourselves we've yet to meet. So here's a thought. Next time an opportunity pulls you out of your comfort zone, listen to it. Let the promise of what you might find outweigh the fear of what you might lose. Because in that precarious balance lies the essence of living fully. The unknown isn't something to be feared. It's an open door waiting for you to walk through. Chapter 2. The Zone Unveiled. Defining flow. It's one of those magical moments we've all experienced at some point in our lives, when you're so engrossed in an activity that time seems to vanish, and nothing else seems to matter. Psychologists call this phenomenon flow, a term popularized by Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi in his groundbreaking work. I remember one summer when I was caught in the throes of a particularly engaging tennis match. For those few hours, it felt like the rest of the world had melted away, leaving only the court, the racket, and my opponent. That, my friends, was flow. So, what exactly is flow? In the simplest terms, flow is a state of deep concentration where you're fully immersed in an activity. Csikszentmihalyi describes it as the optimal experience, a delicate balance between a task's complexity and one's skills to meet that challenge. Think of it like surfing. The wave is your challenge, and your ability to navigate it is your skill. When both are in harmony, you find yourself riding the perfect wave, completely absorbed and exhilarated. Scientific studies have shown that flow isn't just a fuzzy feeling, but a measurable state of consciousness. Brain imaging techniques have revealed specific neural patterns that emerge during flow, characterized by a high level of dopamine, the neurotransmitter responsible for pleasure and reward. But it's not just about feeling good. The more you experience flow, the more your brain craves it, effectively pushing you toward activities that promote growth and fulfillment. Certainly, flow has its roots in psychology, but its significance spreads across various domains, including spirituality and everyday life. Many describe flow as a transcendental state, a form of spiritual awakening where one feels connected to a higher purpose. Think of monks engaged in deep meditation or artists lost in their creative pursuits. Across different cultures and disciplines, the essence of flow remains a universal and unifying experience. Imagine the possibilities if you could harness this state more frequently. Athletes often refer to it as being in the zone, while writers call it the muse's touch. The beauty is that flow is not confined to grand endeavors or world-changing achievements. It can be found in the simplest of activities, such as gardening, cooking, or playing a musical instrument. The key lies in finding that sweet spot where challenge meets skill. One of the most fascinating aspects of flow is its ability to render time irrelevant. We've all had those moments when hours fly by in what feels like minutes. This temporal distortion is one of the key indicators that you've entered a state of flow. Your total absorption in the task at hand creates a world within a world, where only the present moment exists, free from the burdens of past regrets or future anxieties. As you navigate through life, keep an eye out for these flow-inducing activities. They're the breadcrumbs leading you to a more fulfilling, engaged existence. When you find them, indulge wholeheartedly. Whether it's painting, rock climbing, or solving intricate puzzles, let yourself be drawn into that wonderful vortex where time stands still, and joy is the only currency. So the next time you're completely engrossed in an activity, pause and take a moment to appreciate it. This is your personal entry into the realm of flow. A state scientists, artists, and spiritual leaders have all recognized as one of the most rewarding aspects of human life. In a world filled with constant distractions and relentless pressures, these moments of flow can serve as sanctuaries of pure, unadulterated happiness. When Csikszentmihalyi first introduced the concept, it was more than just an academic curiosity. It was a roadmap for a more meaningful life. His research showed that people who regularly experience flow are generally happier and more productive. But you don't need a PhD in psychology to benefit from this insight. All it takes is the willingness to explore, to push your boundaries, and to immerse yourself fully in whatever it is you love doing. Ultimately, the quest for flow is a deeply personal journey, unique to each of us but universally attainable. It's about recognizing those moments when you feel most alive and actively seeking them out. And as you weave more of these moments into the fabric of your life, you'll find yourself not merely existing but truly living. Characteristics of flow. Imagine a moment when you are so engrossed in an activity that the external world falls away. You're fully tuned in, and there's a sense of effortless action and fluidity. This magical state is known as flow, a psychological phenomenon that has intrigued scientists, spiritual seekers, and creatives alike. Flow is marked by several fascinating characteristics, and today, let's delve into these features to understand the essence of being in the zone. One of the most defining qualities of flow is complete absorption in the task at hand. When I used to paint murals, hours would slip by unnoticed. The intricate details of mixing colors and brushing textures onto the wall created a harmony between my mind and body. This absorption is not just an artistic whim. Studies in neuroscience reveal that our brains enter a state of heightened focus during flow. Parts of the prefrontal cortex, responsible for self-criticism, dial down, allowing us to become one with our work. Time distortion is another intriguing characteristic. During flow, the perception of time often becomes warped, either speeding up or slowing down. I recall an anecdote from a friend who is an avid rock climber. He described a climb where every move felt deliberate and extended, right until he reached the peak, only to realize that a couple of hours had passed instead of the expected half-day. It's not just the climbers or artists. Athletes, musicians, and even programmers report similar experiences. It's as if flow grants us a temporary escape from the ticking clock, immersing us in a boundless expanse. Intrinsic motivation plays a crucial role, driving the experience of flow. Intrinsic motivation is powered by an internal desire to achieve something for pure satisfaction rather than external rewards. Consider a pianist who spends hours perfecting a sonata, not for applause or recognition, but purely for the love of music. Psychological studies indicate that intrinsic motivation fuels creativity and innovation, feeding a virtuous cycle of engagement and satisfaction, which in turn propels deeper flow experiences. Spiritual traditions also echo the essence of flow. Take meditation practices that aim to synchronize mind and body, creating a natural flow of energy. In Zen Buddhism, the concept of satori, or sudden enlightenment, parallels the rush of insights one may experience in a flow state. Ancient yogic teachings speak of samadhi, a state of meditative consciousness that merges the individual's awareness with the universe. These traditions emphasize the meditative, almost transcendent nature of true flow, suggesting that it is more than a psychological episode, but a deeply spiritual experience. A pivotal moment in my journey with flow came during a solitary hike through the mountains. With each step, I felt more connected to nature and less tethered to my daily worries. Hours melted away, the climb felt like a seamless dance, and every breath seemed to deepen my sense of presence. Upon reaching a serene clearing, I felt a profound sense of unity with my surroundings, an intangible yet palpable joy, similar to what researchers describe in their flow studies. Exploring these characteristics of flow, from scientific scrutiny to personal and spiritual insights, unravels a rich tapestry of human experience. We learn that flow isn't just a high-performance phenomenon, but a doorway to understanding ourselves more deeply. Whether through painting, climbing, programming, or meditation, finding our flow leads us into a harmonious dance with time, self, and the universe. So next time you lose track of hours doing something you love, know that you are tapping into one of the most sacred and exhilarating aspects of human existence. Experiencing flow in daily life. The concept of flow, often described as a state of deep immersion and optimal experience, isn't just for peak moments of euphoria or extraordinary achievements. You might recall Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, the psychologist who popularized flow, saying that this state is accessible in the humdrum of daily routines, from washing dishes to walking the dog. Feeling skeptical? Thankfully, flow is more about mindset than the magnitude of the task. Imagine your morning ritual. Perhaps it's the tranquility of brewing coffee as the aroma fills your kitchen. These moments can become opportunities for flow if approached with intention. Start by setting aside distractions. No phone, no news updates. Just you, the coffee, and the sensation of ground beans meeting water. Even mundane tasks turn magical when you allow yourself to dive fully into the experience. It was a chilly Tuesday when I first realized the potential of everyday flow. Wrapped in a fleece blanket, armed with a list of chores longer than my arm, I felt overwhelmed. My advisor once told me, "You focus on one task and find joy in its simplicity." I started with washing dishes. The warmth of the water, the rhythm of sponge scrubbing against plates. Suddenly, I was engrossed. Time flew. What seemed like a dreary chore transformed into a meditative escape. The science behind flow is fascinating. Our brains thrive on balance. The task at hand needs to be challenging enough to keep us engaged, but not too difficult to induce anxiety. This balance, known as the flow channel, cultivates a deep involvement that quiets the chatter of our minds. For instance, while practicing yoga, each pose's concentration can draw you into a state of flow, syncing your breath and movement until you lose track of time. Spiritual traditions have long acknowledged this trance-like absorption. Buddhists meditate, entering flow through mindfulness of breath. Catholics might find similar peace in prayer. These practices remind us that flow isn't about what we do, but how we do it. Whether you're planting flowers, jogging through a park, or even dancing around your living room, approaching activities with presence and intention opens the door to flow. Yet, not every attempt to find flow will succeed. That's okay. There are days when distractions win, making flow elusive. The trick lies in persistence and variety. Experiment with different tasks and environments. Some people find flow in creative endeavors like painting or writing, while others might find it in more physical activities like rock climbing or swimming. The key is to keep exploring. In our fast-paced world, integrating flow into daily life can be a sanctuary. It begins with a simple shift in perspective, seeing each moment as an opportunity for immersion rather than a series of tasks to be conquered. As you wash your car or fold laundry, give yourself the space to fully engage. Listen to the water splashing, feel the fabrics beneath your fingers, and let go of the notion of time. As you start to find flow in everyday activities, a subtle shift occurs. You'll notice reduced stress and a greater sense of satisfaction in your daily routine. Even better, these moments of peace spill into other areas of life, enriching relationships and boosting overall well-being. It's not about seeking perfection in tasks, but rather, finding moments of perfection within them. So, the next time you feel overwhelmed by the mundane, remember that flow is waiting for you there. With open heart and focused mind, daily tasks transform from monotonous chores into a dance of mindfulness and joy. Trust me, it's a journey worth taking, and one that has the power to profoundly change your life. Chapter 3: Riding the Waves of Creativity. The Creative Process. The night sky sparkled with a million stars, a serene backdrop that had always been my refuge when seeking inspiration. The creative process, much like the cosmos, is vast and alluring, yet intricately detailed. Each star represents a different stage, from the nebulous birth of ideas to the blazing supernova of completion. It starts with a spark, an initial idea as faint as the first wink of starlight. Often, this inspiration strikes in unexpected moments. During a morning jog, in the midst of a soul-stirring song, or while gazing at an ancient tree, its branches stretching out like thoughts yearning for expression. Psychologists call this the preparation stage, where the mind absorbs everything, planting the seeds of creative thought. Next comes incubation, where the idea simmers beneath the surface. This phase is akin to watching the night sky shift. Subtle changes occur, beyond immediate perception. It's essential to resist the urge to rush. During these moments, I find solace in long walks or meditative practices, allowing my mind to wander freely. It is here that our subconscious mind does much of the heavy lifting, connecting dots and forming a cohesive vision. The illumination phase is where magic happens. Like a meteor slicing through the darkness, a brilliant solution or profound insight emerges. This sudden clarity can be euphoric. For me, it often happens in the least expected places, while taking a shower or driving down a winding road. The key is to remain open and ready to capture these fleeting moments of brilliance. Once the spark of illumination has struck, it's time for verification. This stage involves the meticulous process of bringing the idea to life, refining and grounding it in reality. It's akin to charting constellations from individual stars, a balance of creativity and critical thinking. The flow state plays a critical role here, where time seems to vanish, and the work becomes an extension of one's self. Athletes, artists, and writers alike cherish these moments, where the synergy between mind and creation is at its peak. Speaking of flow, it's a concept deeply explored in psychological research. Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, a leading researcher in positive psychology, describes it as a state of optimal experience where people are so involved in an activity that nothing else seems to matter. For anyone engaged in a creative endeavor, finding flow can be transformative, turning a daunting task into an exhilarating journey. Spiritual elements also play a role in harnessing flow for creativity. Many ancient traditions emphasize the importance of mindfulness, presence, and connecting with the inner self. Practices like yoga, tai chi, or simply deep, mindful breathing can tap into this wellspring of creative energy. Personally, I have found that a few moments of quiet reflection can align my thoughts, making the subsequent burst of creativity even more potent. As our journey through the creative process draws to a close, imagine it as the moon rising over a calm sea, its luminous path guiding us forward. Encouraging readers to embrace each stage, from the initial spark to the final polish, reveals that creativity is not just an act but a transformative experience. It's about finding beauty in the process and enjoying the stars along the way. Overcoming creative blocks. It was a gloomy afternoon when I found myself staring at an annoyingly blank document on my laptop. My fingers hovered above the keyboard like an indecisive bird contemplating its next flight. Yeah, it was one of those days when creativity decides to take an unscheduled holiday without informing the brain. Ever been there? Thought so. Let's level with each other for a moment. Creative blocks are as common as finding cat videos on the internet. No one escapes them, not even the most seasoned artists, writers, or musicians. But here's the twist. Getting through these stifling periods of stagnation isn't just about waiting for the muse to return. It's about coaxing that elusive muse out of hiding. First, let's talk science. The brain's reward system is wired to favor novelty and challenge. When you're stuck, this circuitry can get a bit rusty. Our goal is to shake things up. One practical strategy is to break down the overwhelming task of creating into smaller, digestible chunks. It's like nibbling on a cookie instead of trying to gulp down the whole thing. The minute you start making tiny, consistent efforts, you're greasing the creative wheels. Then there's the power of routine. Surprising, right? Routine seems like the nemesis of creativity, but it can actually be its greatest ally. By setting a dedicated time to work on your craft every day, you form a habit. And habits make it easier to bypass the mental blocks that stop you in your tracks. Of course, science only tells part of the story. There's also an element of spirituality to consider. Some say creativity is a divine gift, a channeling of universal energies. Engaging in mindfulness practices, such as meditation or deep breathing, can help realign your mental and emotional state. This calm, centered approach often makes space for inspiration to flow in where stress and anxiety once resided. Now, let's get personal. My first major book deal was a dream come true until I hit a solid wall 3 chapters in. My editor called, asking for updates, and my heart raced like a hamster on a wheel. I started walking every morning through a nearby park, letting the rustle of leaves and the chirping birds create a symphony of tranquility. Slowly, but surely, words began to find their way from my mind to the page again. Here's a nifty trick I picked up along the way: switch mediums. If you're a writer, try sketching what you want to describe instead of using words. If you're a painter, write a short story about your subject. The different perspectives can kickstart new pathways in your brain, offering fresh insights and ideas. And let's not forget about community. Sharing your struggles and triumphs with fellow creatives can be incredibly liberating. You might even pick up a few new techniques or perspectives from their experiences. Remember, you're not alone in this journey. So, to sum it up, overcoming creative blocks is a mix of practicality, spirituality, and personal anecdotes. Embrace the challenge not as a burden, but as an opportunity to rediscover the joy of creating. And just maybe, tomorrow's blank page will look a bit less intimidating and a lot more inviting. Tapping into inspiration. Inspiration often strikes when we least expect it. It can be a gentle nudge in the middle of the night or a lightning bolt in the midst of a mundane task. I remember one cool autumn evening, sitting by the fireplace, staring into the dancing flames. That's when it hit me, the idea for my first novel. It was so vivid, so full of life, that it felt like it had been waiting for me all along, hidden in the corners of my mind. Reflecting on that moment, I realize it wasn't just the fire that sparked my imagination. It was the culmination of my thoughts, experiences, and the books I'd read. Inspiration is like a river, constantly flowing and fed by various tributaries. To understand it better, I began delving into the lives of famous creators. Writers, musicians, artists, they all had their unique ways of tapping into this elusive force. Take Vincent van Gogh, for instance. His art was deeply influenced by his emotional state and the world around him. He once said, "If you hear a voice within you say you cannot paint, then by all means paint, and that voice will be silenced." Van Gogh's approach reminds us that sometimes inspiration is about pushing through self-doubt and persistent effort, not waiting for a perfect moment. Science too has something to say about inspiration. Neurologist Alice Flaherty explores the brain's role in creativity in her book The Midnight Disease. She explains how certain neurological conditions, as well as states like hypergraphia, a compulsive urge to write, can amplify creativity. It's fascinating how our brain chemistry can trigger a cascade of ideas, linking seemingly unrelated thoughts into a coherent masterpiece. But let's not forget the spiritual aspect. Many creators speak of a divine or mystical experience when inspiration strikes. Author Elizabeth Gilbert in her book Big Magic talks about ideas as living entities, floating around, waiting for someone to latch onto them. She suggests that partnering with inspiration requires a blend of openness and discipline, treating your creative process as a sacred dialogue with the universe. Blending these perspectives brings us to a critical realization. Inspiration can come from anywhere and anything. It may be deeply personal or universally accessible, a scientific phenomenon or a spiritual encounter. What matters is your readiness to receive it. Cultivate an environment that fosters creativity, whether it's through meditation, surrounding yourself with nature, engaging in stimulating conversations, or simply embracing silence. I've tried to make my life a fertile ground for inspiration by staying curious and being present in every moment. One of my favorite practices is to keep a journal, jotting down random thoughts, observations, and dreams. This helps me capture fleeting ideas and explore them further. Photography, too, has become a way to see the world from different perspectives, finding beauty in everyday scenes and moments. So, where does this leave you? Think about your unique triggers. Is it music, travel, or perhaps the quiet moments just before dawn? Your well of inspiration is exclusive to you. Experiment, explore, and most importantly, trust your instincts. The more you engage with your sources of inspiration, the more accessible they'll become, and who knows what creative marvels await you on the other side. Chapter 4. Navigating Challenges. The Mindset of Resilience. When life throws its curveballs, the instinctive response often revolves around resistance, a pushback against the unexpected forces disrupting our plans. Yet, the true magic lies not in resistance, but in embracing resilience. Picture a bamboo in a storm. It bends but doesn't break. Its strength lies in its flexibility. Mental resilience operates on the same principle, allowing us to adapt, recover, and even thrive amidst adversity. Science provides fascinating insights into resilience. Studies reveal that resilient individuals possess a unique neural wiring that enables quicker emotional recovery. Their brains show higher activity in the prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for controlling emotions and decision-making. This is the same part of the brain athletes tap into during periods of intense focus and peak performance, often referred to as the zone. I recall a moment from my own life when resilience was not just a theory, but a necessity. It was during the bleak winter of my sophomore year in college. Academic pressure, compounded with personal setbacks, felt overwhelming. I met Dr. Lila, a psychology professor whose lectures on mindfulness had always intrigued me. One day, she shared her story, a journey from a turbulent childhood to becoming a celebrated scholar. Her secret? A resilient mindset, cultivated through mindful awareness and a relentless belief in possibilities. Resilience is not solely anchored in the psyche, but also interwoven with spirituality. Many spiritual teachings emphasize the strength derived from letting go, detaching from the past and trusting the flow of life. This spiritual resilience serves as a backbone during life's toughest moments. It's akin to tuning into a deeper frequency, where you find solace, guidance, and unyielding strength. Merging these components, scientific findings, motivational stories, and spiritual insights, we see a comprehensive picture of resilience. It's not confined to rebounding from setbacks, but extends to sustaining peak performance. Athletes, artists, entrepreneurs, all demonstrate that resilience is a cornerstone of maintaining flow, that almost mystical state of being where peak performance and joy converge. Yet, how does one cultivate this mindset? The pathways are as varied as individuals themselves. For some, it's daily mindfulness practices or meditation. For others, it's physical exercise, fostering a resilient body to mirror a resilient mind. Cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, and positive psychology also offer structured methods to build and strengthen resilience. Amidst this tapestry of strategies, one thread remains consistent: the narrative we tell ourselves. Personal stories of triumph over adversity are powerful tools. They become our internal compass, guiding us through future challenges. If you've ever faced a seemingly insurmountable obstacle and emerged stronger, you've already walked the path of resilience. Reflect on those moments, for they are your blueprint. The storm may rage outside, but within, there's a space of calm, a space nurtured by resilience. With each challenge, this space expands, enabling us to navigate life with grace and fortitude. As you embark on your journey, remember, resilience is not just about enduring but flourishing. It's the quiet strength that whispers, "You've got this," even when the world seems daunting. And as you harness this mindset, you'll find yourself not merely surviving but thriving, harnessing the flow of life's currents to your advantage. And now, as you sit with these thoughts, reflect on your own resilience. What stories do you carry within you? What strengths have you yet to discover? The journey is personal, profound, and infinitely rewarding. Embrace it with an open heart, and let resilience guide you to unparalleled heights. Finding strength in adversity. Life, with its unfathomable intricacies, often throws us into the deep end. During my freshman year at college, I was swamped with academic pressures, social dilemmas, and an overwhelming sense of inadequacy. There were moments when I felt utterly defeated, questioning my worth and purpose. But it was in those bleak moments that I began to uncover something profound: personal growth hidden beneath the layers of adversity. Consider Viktor Frankl, a psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor. His harrowing experiences in Nazi concentration camps became the foundation for his psychological theories. In his book Man's Search for Meaning, Frankl argues that even in the most horrific conditions, individuals can find a sense of purpose. This pursuit of meaning, he discovered, was a potent force that kept many, including himself, alive. Pain, Frankl emphasizes, is a part of life, but it's our response to that pain that defines us. It reminded me of my own struggles. The late-night study sessions, the relentless self-doubt, and the constant comparisons with peers, they were not just torturous moments but opportunities to shape my resilience. Scientific research further validates this. Studies in psychological resilience reveal that people who face and overcome hardships often develop greater emotional strength and adaptability. This phenomenon, known as post-traumatic growth, suggests that our lowest points can spur significant personal development and insight. Yet, it isn't merely the science or anecdotes of remarkable individuals that guided me. The spiritual insights gained from regular meditation and introspection played an equally crucial role. Meditation, akin to a balm for the restless mind, became my sanctuary. It taught me to embrace the present, allowing me to witness my thoughts and emotions without judgment. Soon, those moments of despair transformed into lessons of patience, acceptance, and resilience. In your own journey, you may be confronting challenges that seem insurmountable. Whether it's a job loss, a failing relationship, or a personal health crisis, remember that these are the catalysts for growth. Engage with your struggles, not as enemies, but as teachers. Delve into stories of those who've walked similar paths, immerse yourself in spiritual practices, and arm yourself with scientific knowledge. The endgame isn't just survival, it's thriving, even in the harshest storms. As the renowned poet Rumi said, "The wound is the place where the light enters you." Embrace that light, for it's through these very wounds that we discover our most profound strengths and the boundless capacity to rise, time and time again. Embracing setbacks as opportunities. The sun had just reached its zenith when Mia found herself staring blankly at her laptop screen. The rejection email glared back at her. It was the 5th one this month. Frustration bubbled up, threatening to spill over into despair. This was her dream job, the one she'd fought tooth and claw for, and it had slipped through her fingers like sand. Exhaling deeply, she snapped her laptop shut and dragged herself to the window. The world outside seemed so impartial, the trees swaying serenely in the breeze, while her own life felt like it was spiraling out of control. "Why does this keep happening to me?" she murmured. Life has a peculiar way of throwing curveballs. It's in these moments of setback, when our carefully laid plans fall apart, that we are often presented with a choice: to succumb to the weight of failure or to rise and find a new path. As a child, Mia had always been taught that every failure was a stepping stone to success. But standing there, staring into the mundane, it was hard to see the wisdom in those words. Mia's mind drifted back to another time in her life, during college. She'd been part of the debate team, a fierce competitor with a knack for persuasion. She'd lost an important debate, one that everyone, including herself, had expected her to win. The memory felt like a distant echo now, but the lesson it taught her was sharp and resonant. Her coach, Mr. Adams, had found her backstage, tears of frustration streaming down her face. "You know, Mia," he said, "setbacks are like hidden treasures. They carry lessons that success often hides. Today, you learned more about your weaknesses than you ever would have from a win." His words had puzzled her then, but as time went on, she realized he was right. That loss had sparked a relentless drive to improve. She had scrutinized her performance, identified her flaws, and worked tirelessly to better herself. By the end of the semester, she was not just a better debater, but a more resilient person. Mia returned to the present, a new clarity dawning upon her. It wasn't the job rejections that were defining her future, it was her response to them. Maybe, just maybe, these setbacks were trying to nudge her toward something else, something she hadn't yet seen. The seeds of resilience and innovation are often buried deep within our failures. She walked to her bookshelf and pulled out a tattered journal. Inside, she had documented every significant failure and what she had learned from each one. As she flipped through the pages, patterns began to emerge. Failures weren't obstacles, they were maps pointing her toward a more profound understanding of herself and her journey. Taking a deep breath, she opened her laptop once more. But this time, instead of drowning in anxiety, she felt a spark of excitement. Each rejection had taught her something invaluable. Armed with these insights, she was ready to refine her approach and try again. She realized that setbacks, when embraced, could become the very catalyst for transformative growth. The future didn't seem daunting anymore. It felt like an open field of possibilities, just waiting to be explored. Mia's story isn't unique. Across the world, countless tales echo the same truth. Failure is not the end but a potent beginning. Consider Thomas Edison, who famously said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." His perspective transformed setbacks into stepping stones that eventually led to the light bulb, forever changing the world. Similarly, spiritual traditions, from Buddhism to Stoicism, emphasize the power of accepting and learning from hardships. They teach that suffering isn't just an inevitable part of life, but a crucial teacher that reveals paths to enlightenment and self-discovery. Even modern psychology affirms this, with numerous studies indicating that resilience, the capacity to bounce back from failure, is a critical predictor of success and well-being. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, Mia felt an inexplicable connection to these truths. Her heart, once heavy with disappointment, now danced with a new resolve. Embracing setbacks as opportunities wasn't just about finding success, it was about discovering her own strength, wisdom, and potential. And with that realization, the night didn't seem so dark anymore. It was merely the backdrop for a bright, new dawn. Chapter 5. Harnessing the Power of Now. Present Moment Awareness. Picture this. You're nestled in your favorite chair, a steaming cup of tea beside you, the gentle hum of life filtering through your window. The world is busy, noisy even, but here you sit, cocooned in a moment that feels timeless. This feeling is what happens when you dive deep into the present moment, leaving behind the chaos of past regrets and future anxieties. One spring morning, I took a walk through a park, a haven right in the heart of my bustling city. The air was crisp, birdsong orchestrated the atmosphere, and every color seemed to vibrate with life. I decided, just for a moment, to let go of everything that wasn't that very moment. No emails, no impending deadlines, just each step on the gravel path, the breeze against my skin, and the way the sun dappled through the leaves. Time lost its grip, and I was simply there, fully alive in that experience. This, I realized later, was a state of flow. Flow isn't just for artists and athletes, it's a state we can all access. When you're wholly present, your inner critic quiets, and you perform at your best effortlessly. It's the sweet spot where challenge meets skill, and time seems to both fly and stand still. But how do we gain access to this magical state? The key lies in present moment awareness. Mindfulness, the practice of being present, can turbocharge your capacity to enter flow states. Start simple. Next time you wash dishes, feel the warm water on your hands, the texture of the sponge, the sound of the tap. It might seem mundane, but directing your full attention to the task transforms it into a meditative exercise. Those seconds when you're entirely engaged, those are moments of flow. The benefits extend beyond achieving flow. Studies from neuroscience tell us that regular mindfulness practice can reshape the brain. Scientists have found that mindfulness increases gray matter density in brain regions connected to memory, emotion regulation, and perspective taking. This means heightened awareness, improved emotional balance, and deeper empathy, all by simply focusing on the now. Yet, modern life constantly pulls us into past regrets or future worries. There's a Buddhist teaching that likens our wandering mind to a monkey, hopping from branch to branch, restless and unfocused. Taming this monkey mind requires patience and practice. Techniques like mindful breathing or body scans can re-anchor us to the present. Close your eyes and take a deep breath. Feel the air fill your lungs. Notice the rise and fall of your chest. These small exercises train your mind to return to the present. Some might find spiritual teachings valuable here. Ancient wisdom, like that from Zen Buddhism, emphasizes mindfulness as a path to enlightenment. Thich Nhat Hanh, a renowned Zen master, speaks about mindful walking, where each step nourishes our body and mind. Imagine walking not just to get somewhere, but walking to walk. Each step grounds you in the present, each breath centers you. Whether or not you resonate with the spiritual side, these practices are tools to cultivate your own present moment awareness. As the sun began to set on my park walk, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, I realized that the present moment is all we truly have. Future and past are mere concepts, whispers of time that hasn't yet come or has already flown by. The present is where life unfolds in its rawest, richest form. By embracing this moment, you unlock the door to your most vibrant, powerful self. And now, dear reader, as you sit here, immersed in these words, allow yourself to be fully present. To taste the texture of now. For in this very moment, you are alive with endless possibilities. The question is, will you allow yourself the gift of truly living it? Letting go of the past. Have you ever felt weighed down by memories, moments you wished could be erased or rewritten? I have, and trust me, you're not alone. When I was a kid, I had this old scar on my knee from a bicycle accident. Every time I looked at it, I would relive the fear, the pain, and the embarrassment. It was more than just a physical scar. It was an emotional trigger that tethered me to a past I'm no longer living in. The funny thing is, it wasn't until I grew older that I realized similar scars were etched into my mind, unresolved regrets, traumas, and anxieties that kept me chained to yesterdays. Psychologists often talk about the negativity bias, our tendency to remember bad events more vividly than good ones. It's a survival mechanism, an ancient tool passed down through generations to keep us alert to dangers. But in today's world, where survival isn't constantly on the line, this bias becomes a burden, cementing our attention on the shortcomings of our past. Dr. Elizabeth Brennan, a prominent psychologist, once told me, the brain is like Velcro for negativity, but Teflon for positivity. It's crucial to recognize this pattern if we hope to move beyond it. The very act of holding on to negative memories taxes our mental and emotional energy. It dims our ability to live fully in the present. When I started attending mindfulness sessions, my perspective began to shift. Our teacher, a serene gentleman named Raj, introduced me to the concept of mental cleanup. Imagine your mind is a garden, he said. Regrets and traumas are the weeds choking your flowers. Unless you pull them out by the root, they'll spread and stunt your growth. So, how do we pull out these metaphorical weeds? First, we acknowledge them. It can be painful to face past experiences we wish never happened, but avoidance only grants them more power. One technique Raj taught us is the letter method. Write a letter to your past self, explaining how those events have shaped who you are today, and then, symbolically, let it go by burning or burying it. This can be remarkably cathartic, a tangible way to release the mental hold of those past events. Alongside practical exercises, incorporating spiritual practices can help. Take the Hawaiian practice of Ho'oponopono, a beautiful method of reconciliation and forgiveness. The words "I'm sorry," "Please forgive me," "Thank you," "I love you," carry transformative power. Reciting them isn't just about absolving others, it's about healing yourself. Each repetition becomes a step toward emotional freedom. One evening after a particularly enlightening session, I walked to the nearby shore, feeling the sand cool beneath my feet. I stood there, waves lapping at my ankles, and spoke those words out loud to the vast ocean. Though the sea didn't respond, I felt lighter, my mind a little less clouded. In that simple act of letting go, I discovered a path to inner peace. Most importantly, recognize that letting go of the past is an ongoing journey, not a one-time event. Be patient with yourself. Some days will be easier than others. Yet, every small effort you make is a stride towards a freer, more present self. We all carry scars, both visible and hidden. Whether you're haunted by past mistakes or lingering trauma, remember, it's okay to let go. You're not erasing the past, you're simply refusing to let it control your future. By embracing the now and practicing forgiveness, both toward yourself and others, you open the door to a more fulfilling, vibrant life. And who knows, in releasing those shadows, you might just reclaim the light you've always deserved. Mindful living. Just after sunrise, Jane found herself at the park, savoring the cool morning air with each deliberate step. Her intention was simple: to ground herself before the day's whirlwind began. Each crunch of leaves beneath her boots felt like a gentle reminder of life's transient nature, everything changing, yet connected. This mindful walk was her daily gift to herself, a practice that had transformed from a mere exercise into an essential ritual. Jane's journey into mindfulness began years ago, spurred by a chapter in a book she stumbled upon in a tiny, cobbled bookstore. The author, with an almost prophetic tone, spoke about how a simple shift in awareness could change everything. It wasn't about silencing her mind, an endeavor she'd found exasperating, but rather about observing her thoughts without getting caught up in them. This simple shift in perspective felt like unveiling a secret door to a more peaceful existence. Encouraged, Jane dove deeper into the practice. She learned to integrate mindfulness into the most ordinary aspects of her life: washing dishes, listening to her kids chatter about their day, or even during the humdrum of traffic. It was during these moments she discovered the beauty in what had previously been mundane. Instead of just cleaning dishes, she found herself engaging in the tactile experience: the warmth of the soapy water, the smoothness of ceramic under her fingertips. This heightened awareness created a continuous flow, turning chore time into a mini-meditative session. The benefits extended beyond enhanced sensory experiences. Jane noticed a shift in her responses to life's inevitable stresses. Her practice brought a newfound clarity, helping her pause before reacting, a pause that often made the difference between a heated argument and a compassionate conversation. This mindful approach not only nurtured her relationships, but also deepened her connection to herself, rooting her firmly in the present. On an especially chaotic day, her boss announced a last-minute project deadline. The office buzzed with a panicked energy, but Jane, anchored by her mindfulness practice, approached the task with calm determination. As her co-workers rushed around, she remained steady, taking one task at a time, her focus unwavering. The project was completed with time to spare, and more importantly, without the fraying edges of stress that usually accompanied such endeavors. In blending personal practice with scientific curiosity, Jane also delved into the wealth of studies supporting the benefits of mindfulness. Research consistently showed that mindfulness could reduce stress, enhance emotional regulation, and even improve physical health. These discoveries reinforced her commitment to the practice, as she realized that the small tweaks she made in her daily life were not only preserving her well-being, but also nurturing her long-term health. The spiritual dimension of mindfulness was an unexpected treasure. Jane began exploring traditions like Buddhism and Taoism, finding parallels between their teachings and her lived experiences. These philosophies spoke of interconnectedness, compassion, and acceptance, all principles that resonated deeply with her evolving worldview. Her mindfulness practice, thus, became a bridge connecting her everyday life to ancient wisdom, enriching her journey with profound insights. One evening, as she sat cross-legged in her living room, eyes closed and breathing steady, she marveled at how far she had come. Her mind, once a chaotic jumble of thoughts and worries, now felt like a serene lake, with ripples appearing now and then but not disturbing the stillness. She knew that life's challenges would continue to ebb and flow, but she felt equipped to navigate them with grace and presence. As the darkness of night enveloped her, Jane knew that mindfulness was not a destination but an ongoing journey. It was about showing up every day, embracing each moment with curiosity and kindness. And as she drifted toward sleep, she felt a deep sense of gratitude for the mindful path she had chosen, a path that allowed her to live each day fully, wholeheartedly, and authentically. Chapter 6: The Art of Deep Focus. Eliminating Distractions. Imagine this: you're at your desk, ready to tackle the day's most important task when a ping from your phone announces an email. You glance at it, just for a second, and 15 minutes later, you're scrolling through social media, lost in a web of updates and irrelevant information. Sound familiar? You're not alone. In a world bursting with notifications and endless digital chatter, staying focused can feel like an insurmountable challenge. Science tells us that our brains are hardwired for distraction. Evolutionarily, this made sense. We needed to be alert to potential threats in our environment. Today, our threats are often benign but insistent. An app alert, a buzzing phone, a new tab opened in the browser. Each distraction forces our brain to switch tasks, a phenomenon known as task switching, which can reduce efficiency by up to 40% according to some studies. So how do we reclaim our focus? First, awareness is key. Patricia, a friend of mine who works as a freelance writer, struggled with constant distractions. She started tracking her time and realized she spent almost an hour each day checking her phone. Shocked by this revelation, Patricia decided to take action. She began setting boundaries, turning off non-essential notifications and using apps designed to block distracting websites during work hours. Within just a week, she noticed a significant boost in her productivity and mental clarity. Secondly, consider the environment. Our surroundings play a crucial role in our ability to concentrate. I recall a period when I was working on my second novel in a bustling coffee shop. Initially, the background noise seemed manageable, even comforting. But over time, the clatter of cups and snippets of conversation seeped into my consciousness, fracturing my focus. It wasn't until I moved to a quieter setting at home that I truly hit my stride again. Finding a haven for focused work, be it a quiet room, a library, or even noise-canceling headphones, can make a world of difference. Then there's the question of digital detox. We live in an age where information is at our fingertips 24/7, but that constant connectivity can be draining. Scheduled breaks from screens not only protect our eyes, but also give our minds a chance to reset. Personally, I've found retreats into nature invaluable. Every few months, I take a weekend to disconnect entirely. No phone, no internet, just the quiet rustle of leaves and the babble of a nearby stream. These mini digital detoxes rejuvenate my spirit and sharpen my focus when I return to my work. It's also worth noting the spiritual perspective. Many ancient practices, such as meditation and mindfulness, emphasize the power of a clear and undistracted mind. The Buddha, for instance, spoke of right concentration as part of the path to enlightenment. By training our minds to stay present, we can not only improve our productivity, but also find greater peace and satisfaction in our daily lives. Let me leave you with this anecdote. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and philosopher, once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." It's a potent reminder that the ability to focus, to eliminate distractions, lies within us. By being mindful of our triggers, creating conducive environments, taking breaks, and perhaps borrowing a leaf from ancient wisdom, we can cultivate a more focused, fulfilling life. Remember, the journey to a distraction-free life is ongoing. It's about making small, consistent changes and being patient with yourself. As you begin this journey, you'll find that the moments of deep, undistracted focus become more frequent, and with them, the sense of accomplishment and peace. Not only will your productivity soar, but you'll also rediscover the joy of being fully present in the task at hand. Cultivating concentration. So, there I was, sitting cross-legged in a dimly lit room, when a thought popped into my head like an unwelcome guest. It was the kind of thought that yanks you out of where you are and deposits you elsewhere, usually somewhere mundane, like tonight's dinner plans or that email I forgot to send. I had been meditating, or at least trying to. Focusing the mind, it turns out, is no small feat. The ancient sages of yore had their own methods for this. Some took to the stillness of the mountains, others to the murmur of rivers. Even without modern science, they had grasped the importance of concentration, realizing it as the key to deeper understanding and, interestingly enough, happiness. Taking a cue from them, I decided I needed a sanctuary of my own. But unlike those ascetics, I didn't have the luxury of disappearing into the wilderness. So, I turned to science for answers. Neuroscientists tell us that our brains operate more efficiently in a state of flow, a term coined by psychologist Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. Flow happens when you are fully immersed in an activity, where the sense of self and time dissolves. It's like surfing a perfect wave, everything clicks. But accessing this state requires more than just luck, it requires cultivated concentration. Techniques such as mindfulness meditation, single tasking, and even certain types of music can nudge the brain into this optimal state. Consider mindfulness, for instance. There's a simple exercise called the body scan, where you progress from the tips of your toes to the top of your head, simply observing each part without judgment. It sounds trivial, but the impact on your concentration can be profound. The practice gently redirects your wandering thoughts, anchoring you to the present moment. I soon realized that these sessions of mindfulness were not just meditative, they were like workouts for my mind. But let's pivot to something more modern, like the Pomodoro technique. Invented by Francesco Cirillo in the late 1980s, it's a time management method that breaks work into intervals, typically 25 minutes in length, separated by short breaks. The genius of this method lies in its simplicity. When the clock is ticking, you focus intensely. Each tick of the timer becomes a reminder to stay on task. And during those 5-minute breaks, your brain gets a well-deserved rest. On a particularly busy weekday, I decided to give this technique a whirl. With my phone set to airplane mode and a kitchen timer by my side, I dove into my work. The first few intervals were clumsy. Distractions seemed to eagerly await any drift in my focus. But as I completed more sessions, the groove began to set in. I was swimming deeper into my tasks, and before I knew it, hours had passed. It's amusing how these ancient practices and modern hacks can blend seamlessly. Both remind us that focus is a skill, a muscle that can be trained. Some days will be easier than others, sure. The mind will drift, stray, and maybe even rebel. But the more we engage in these practices, the more we notice those moments of clarity. Eventually, you look up from your work or emerge from meditation and feel it, that subtle shift. You're in the flow, and it feels glorious. Here's the thing, though. The journey to master concentration is ongoing. As you read these words, you might feel an urge to try some of these techniques. Perhaps you will, perhaps you won't. But if you do, remember, the aim is not perfection. It's the gradual enhancement of your ability to focus, to weave in and out of flow with grace. And who knows, one day you might find yourself effortlessly riding that perfect wave, without even realizing how you got there. As I continued to explore concentration, a curious thought occurred to me. What if there's not just one ultimate technique, but a personalized blend unique to each one of us? A combination of ancient wisdom and modern science, tailored to fit our individual lives. It's a tantalizing idea that's both comforting and exhilarating. And it brings us to an intriguing question. How far can we push the boundaries of our own minds? The flow of immersion. There's a special place where the mind goes, a sanctuary of sorts, when we are completely absorbed in a task. It's as though the rest of the world dims and the only light that remains is focused solely on what we are doing. This state is known as flow, an intense immersion where time seems to stretch or shrink and distractions dissolve into a distant hum. Consider the story of Maria, an artist whose work spoke in hues and brushstrokes. For hours, she could stand before a canvas, her mind at one with the rhythm of her hand. Maria described it as transcending the physical world, losing herself so deeply in creation that each movement felt like a whisper from her soul. As the paint met canvas, she found a dialogue not just with her medium, but with herself. Then there's Jason, a coder who often got swept away in lines of logic. He referred to coding as an elegant dance, a sequence of patterns that, when executed perfectly, felt almost like a symphony. Jason's most profound moments came late at night, when the world was asleep. In those quiet hours, his fingers tapping on the keyboard became a melody of productivity and innovation. The screen's glow was not just light, it was his beacon. Flow isn't limited to the arts and sciences. Spiritual practitioners like Priya, a yogi, experience it through their deep meditation and synchronized breathing. Priya often spoke of losing her sense of self, merging with the rhythm of her breath. Her focus was so acute that each inhalation and exhalation was a universe unto itself. In those moments, she felt as though she tapped into an ancient wisdom, a source of inner peace and clarity. The common thread across these stories is the profound attention and complete presence in the moment. Scientifically, this phenomenon is backed by research on brainwaves and neural synchrony. Our brain enters an optimal state of consciousness where the prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for self-consciousness, temporarily deactivates. This silencing of the inner critic allows for unfiltered creativity and unimpeded focus. It's not just about the pursuit of perfection. Flow is a dance of effort and ease, a balance between challenge and skill. Athletes often refer to it as being in the zone. Emma, a marathon runner, would describe the euphoria she felt during her longest runs, the point where her body and mind seemed to operate on a different plane. Every step, every breath was in perfect harmony, as if she was not running but gliding. We can all experience this state, whether it's through baking a perfect loaf of bread, gardening, playing an instrument, or even during a stimulating conversation. The key is to find what draws you into that deep focus, where the boundary between you and the task begins to blur. When you find that activity, don't just dip your toes in, dive headfirst. The world will fade, but what you gain in those moments of total immersion is invaluable. So the next time you sit down to work on a project or engage in a hobby, let yourself get lost in it. Embrace the flow of immersion. Let it carry you to places you never thought possible. For it is in those moments of complete absorption that we touch the essence of our true potential. Chapter 7: Journey Within. The Power of Self-Discovery. Exploring Inner Potential. You ever wonder what you're really capable of? I mean, beyond the daily grind and routine tasks. Let me tell you about a time when even I, an ordinary soul, found a reservoir of untapped potential that reshaped my entire life. It all began with an unexpected realization during a weekend hike in the serene mountains of Vermont. Nature has a funny way of revealing things, doesn't it? The crisp air, the whispering trees, they seemed to be nudging me toward a deeper understanding of myself. There I was, standing at the edge of a cliff, and a thought struck me like lightning. What if I've been living my life on autopilot? It was as though the universe conspired to wake me up from a slumber I hadn't even realized I was in. That was my moment of awakening, but such moments aren't limited to mountaintops. They can happen anywhere, anytime. Imagine understanding that you have within you a vast ocean of possibilities, waiting eagerly to be explored. And it's not just about mystical epiphanies. Science backs this up too. Neuroplasticity, for instance, reveals that our brains are not set in stone. They're malleable, capable of forming new connections and adapting to new challenges. It's like having a computer that constantly upgrades itself, ready to handle more complex software. Intriguing, right? This means your abilities can grow, shift, and evolve as you venture into new realms of thought and action. So, whether it's learning a musical instrument at 50 or picking up a new language in your 60s, your brain can do it. Spiritual insights, on the other hand, guide us to look inward and forge a connection with that deeper part of ourselves. It's been said that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. Imagine tapping into that infinite aspect of yourself, aligning your daily activities with your higher self. Suddenly, mundane tasks become infused with purpose, and challenges transform into stepping stones. Still, the journey of self-discovery requires courage. It's about facing fears, disrupting comfort zones, and being vulnerable. But remember, every leap into the unknown is a flight towards discovering more about who you are and what you can accomplish. I recall a friend who left a secure corporate job to start a nonprofit. Everyone thought he'd lost his mind, but he believed he had a higher calling. Today, his organization impacts thousands of lives. That's the kind of potential we're talking about. Take a moment today to reflect. Meditate, journal, or simply sit in silence. Ask yourself, what am I truly capable of? Let that thought simmer. The answers may not come instantly, but they will, eventually. Once you start this journey, there's no turning back, only moving forward, up and beyond. As you go about your day, watch for those subtle nudges from the universe, those moments of clarity that invite you to step out and explore the vast potential within. It's not just a journey of the mind or spirit, but a holistic transformation. Embrace it, and let your inner potential shine. And now, I leave you with this thought. Are you ready to uncover the extraordinary within the ordinary? Each step taken in this journey becomes a new chapter written in the book of your life, filled with endless possibilities. Overcoming limiting beliefs. I can't do this, Emma thought for what felt like the 100th time as she stared at her blank canvas. The white expanse seemed to mock her, amplifying her insecurities. She had spent years working in a corporate job, hidden behind spreadsheets and reports, never daring to chase her true passion, painting. Every time she tried, a voice in her head whispered that she wasn't good enough, her art wasn't worthwhile, and it was safer to stick with what she knew. But today, standing before the canvas, she was determined to push past those nagging doubts. Emma had always been fascinated by the stories of people who defied the odds. People who, despite society and even their own self-doubt, rose above their limitations to achieve greatness. She had read countless articles and watched many TED Talks that delved into the psychology behind limiting beliefs. It turns out, much of it boiled down to neuroscience and the plasticity of the brain. The brain, with its remarkable ability to rewire itself, could change those deeply ingrained patterns of self-doubt. This concept gave her some hope. If others could do it, then perhaps she could too. Scientifically speaking, the brain's malleability means that new neuronal connections can be formed at any age, creating new pathways for different thoughts and behaviors. This phenomenon, known as neuroplasticity, was the key. Emma learned that by consistently challenging her limiting beliefs, she could essentially rewire her brain. Every time she countered a negative thought with a positive one, she was forging a new path, slowly but surely changing her mindset. There was something almost spiritual about this realization. It was as if the universe was subtly telling her that she possessed the power to shape her reality. This spiritual insight was something Emma clung to, especially on days when self-doubt was overwhelming. Aligning her mind with this deeper understanding added a layer of resilience to her resolve. One morning, her old friend Jake visited and saw her latest pieces. "These are incredible, Emma," he said earnestly, eyes wide with admiration. "You've got real talent. Why don't you have a show?" His suggestion struck her like a bolt of lightning. Could she actually showcase her work? The very idea sent her mind into a whirlwind of terror and excitement. Her hands trembled as she prepared her pieces for an upcoming small community art show. Each brushstroke had been an act of defiance against those internal voices. The act of displaying her work publicly felt like a final confrontation with her limiting beliefs. But as the day approached, she found herself crippled by fear once more, almost ready to back out. On the morning of the show, a text from her mom popped up. "You have every right to be there, Emma. Your work is beautiful, and so are you." Simple words, but they held the weight of unconditional love and belief. Emma closed her eyes and took a deep breath, allowing those words to sink in. The doubts were still there, but now, they were accompanied by a new voice, the voice of possibility. That evening, under the soft lights of the gallery, Emma stood beside her paintings, heart pounding. As people wandered through, pausing to admire her work, she felt a rush of pride. A young girl with wide eyes approached her and asked, "How did you get so good at painting?" Emma smiled and replied, "It's about believing you can and taking one step at a time, even when it's scary." As the little girl wandered off, Emma realized that overcoming limiting beliefs wasn't a single, grand moment of victory. It was a series of small, courageous steps that lead to newfound freedom. Though her journey was far from over, that night marked a pivotal moment. She knew there would be more challenges and that the voice of doubt wasn't silenced forever. But as she turned to look at her paintings one last time, she felt a renewed sense of purpose and a whispering trust in her abilities. The path ahead was hers to shape, and for the first time, she felt ready to carve it out. Embracing self-acceptance. You ever find yourself caught in those moments where everything just feels right? It's like the universe has somehow aligned perfectly, and you're in this magical state where time seems irrelevant, and you're just in the flow. That's what I like to call the sweet spot of life, and guess what? A big part of reaching that state involves embracing self-acceptance. Sounds cliché, right? Stick with me for a bit, and I promise it'll all make sense. Let me take you back to a time when I was a struggling writer, constantly nagged by my insecurities. Every rejection letter felt like a personal blow. Maybe I'm not cut out for this, I'd think. It took a lot of pep talks from close friends and late-night soul-searching sessions to realize that the real issue wasn't the rejection itself, but my inability to accept who I really was. I wasn't embracing my imperfect, yet unique voice. Psychologically speaking, self-acceptance is paramount to achieving what psychologists like Mihai Csikszentmihalyi call flow-ji, that mentally heightened state where you're fully immersed in what you're doing. According to research, when you accept yourself, shortcomings and all, you perform better because you're not wasting mental energy on self-doubt. It's the exact opposite of what I was doing in my early writing days. I was so wrapped up in trying to be someone else, someone I thought the world wanted, that I missed out on being me, authentically and entirely. I remember one particular evening after a string of rejections, I decided to write something solely for myself. No audience in mind. No critics to please. Just me, my laptop, and a heart full of thoughts. Hours slipped by unnoticed. My fingers danced on the keyboard, and for the first time in a long time, I felt alive, free. That piece, raw and unfiltered, went on to be one of my most celebrated works. That night, I stumbled upon the transformative power of self-acceptance. From a spiritual standpoint, this journey of accepting yourself is often compared to peeling away the layers of an onion. The precious core is buried beneath societal expectations, past traumas, and self-imposed limitations. Every layer you peel away brings you closer to your true self, the one who's been there all along, just waiting to break free. And trust me, that core is where the magic happens, where you discover your inherent worth, devoid of external validation. So how do you start this journey? Begin small. Acknowledge your strengths as well as your limitations. Celebrate your wins, no matter how tiny, and show some compassion towards your failures. They're not setbacks but stepping stones. Start journaling, if that's your thing, or meditate. You'd be surprised how much clarity a quiet mind can offer. Connect with people who see you for who you really are and not for an image they want you to project. And above all, be kind to yourself. After all, If you can't accept yourself, how can you expect anyone else to? The realization dawned upon me slowly, but when it did, it was revolutionary. Embracing self-acceptance isn't the endgame. It's a lifelong journey. One that promises a life of authenticity, joy, and yes, those sublime moments of flow. So, here's to peeling back those layers, embracing our truest selves, and stepping into the flow of life. As I pen down these thoughts, a part of me wonders if you're feeling that familiar tug. Maybe it's curiosity, perhaps a twinge of recognition. Wherever you are on your journey, know that this chapter is a shared exploration. We're all in this together, navigating the nuanced art of self-acceptance. And who knows? Maybe, just maybe, you're about to peel away another layer. Chapter 8: Balancing Act: Mind, Body, and Spirit. Holistic Well-Being. Sitting on my porch with a hot cup of tea, I couldn't help but reflect on the profound moments when everything seems to click. That elusive state of flow where mind, body, and spirit work in perfect harmony, creating an almost magical experience. It was during one of my morning meditations that I realized the importance of holistic well-being in sustaining this state of flow. Holistic well-being isn't just about feeling good physically. It's an intricate dance between our mental clarity, our physical health, and our spiritual fulfillment. Imagine your mind as a garden. If you neglect it, weeds of stress and distraction will overrun it. On the contrary, with a little daily watering and care, it blooms, providing a serene environment for the mind to flourish. Scientific studies back this up by showing the benefits of mindfulness and meditation. Engaging in these practices can reduce stress hormones and boost cognitive functions. I remember the first time I truly dedicated myself to a mindfulness practice. It was like a fog lifting, bringing newfound focus and calm that permeated every aspect of my life. But let's not forget the body. It's the vessel that carries us through our daily lives. Physical health impacts our mental and spiritual states more than we often acknowledge. Think of those days when your body feels sluggish. It's tough to maintain a positive outlook, let alone enter a state of flow. On the other hand, regular exercise, a balanced diet, and adequate sleep set the stage for our best selves to emerge. I'll never forget the turning point. It was during a particularly stressful period when I decided to take charge of my physical health. Adding regular evening jogs to my routine felt like turning the key to an entirely new kind of energy. This wasn't about hitting fitness milestones. It was about feeling alive and connected with myself. Finally, the spirit. This part of us seeks meaning and connection beyond the physical world. Whether through spirituality, religion, or personal values, nurturing our spirit brings a sense of purpose. For me, it's always been nature. The rhythm of the ocean waves, the whispering leaves in a forest walk, these experiences connect me to something greater than myself. This triad of mind, body, and spirit creates a powerful synergy. When in balance, they facilitate a prolonged state of flow where time seems to disappear, and we perform at our highest potential. It's a state where creativity thrives, productivity soars, and happiness feels natural. So, how do we maintain this holistic well-being? Start with small, consistent practices in each area. Set aside time daily for your mental health, whether through meditation, journaling, or simply quiet reflection. Prioritize your physical health with a diet rich in nutrients, regular exercise, and sufficient rest. Lastly, feed your spirit by engaging in activities that bring joy and connecting with something greater than yourself. The journey towards holistic well-being is ongoing and deeply personal, but its rewards are immeasurable. I invite you to reflect on your own practices. Are you nurturing each part of your being? In weaving together the threads of mind, body, and spirit, you might find that achieving and maintaining the state of flow becomes not just possible, but a natural part of your everyday life. After all, It's about living a life that's not only productive, but profoundly enriching. Nourishing the mind. In the bustling streets of New York City, there was a coffee shop that became my sanctuary. Tucked away from the noise, it was where I first discovered the power of mindful practices. Picture this: a cozy corner with a soft, worn-out armchair, the aroma of freshly brewed coffee wafting through the air, and a stack of books waiting to be explored. That's where it all began. Scientific research suggests that the brain, like any other muscle, needs regular exercise to stay in shape. One of the most accessible and effective ways to achieve this is through reading. Studies have shown that immersing oneself in a good book can enhance brain connectivity, improve empathy, and even reduce the risk of cognitive decline. On a rainy afternoon, I dove into a book on neuroplasticity, a term that sounded intimidating at first. But as I turned the pages, I realized how simple and profound the concept was. Our brains have the remarkable ability to reorganize themselves, to form new neural connections throughout our lives. This revelation was both liberating and humbling. It meant that no matter our age or background, we have the potential to reshape our minds. Incorporating simple habits like solving puzzles, learning a new language, or playing a musical instrument can go a long way in keeping our minds agile. Take, for instance, my grandfather. At the age of 70, he decided to learn the piano. Every evening, he'd sit by the window, his fingers dancing over the keys, filling the room with melancholic melodies. It was more than just music, it was his way of nourishing his mind. But nourishment isn't solely about intellectual pursuits. Our mental well-being is deeply connected to our physical health. Regular physical activity has been shown to produce endorphins, chemicals in the brain that act as natural painkillers and mood elevators. My morning runs along the Hudson River are a testament to this. The rhythm of my feet hitting the pavement, the cool breeze against my face, it's an invigorating experience that clears the mental cobwebs. Let's not forget the spiritual aspect. Meditative practices, deeply rooted in ancient traditions, offer profound benefits. I once attended a silent retreat, a weekend devoid of speech, where the only sounds were the whispers of the wind and the rustling of leaves. In that silence, I found clarity. Meditation helps in reducing stress, enhancing focus, and fostering a sense of peace, all crucial for mental nourishment. One more personal anecdote. During a particularly stressful period, I stumbled upon a practice called mindful journaling. Every night, I jot down my thoughts, worries, and reflections. It was a cathartic process, a way to unburden my mind. Over time, those scribbles transformed into a roadmap of my emotional landscape, providing insights and fostering growth. As we navigate the complexities of life, it's essential to remember that our minds are malleable. With a blend of intellectual challenges, physical activity, and spiritual practices, we can continuously nourish our mental faculties. The journey might be unique for each of us, but the destination remains the same: a sharper, healthier mind. Honoring the body and spirit. Alicia adjusted the strap of her yoga mat over her shoulder as she walked into the studio. The aroma of incense mixed with eucalyptus immediately wrapped around her like a warm, comforting embrace. It had been a long week, juggling work deadlines and family responsibilities, but she knew this hour was hers alone. As she settled onto her mat, she allowed herself to sink into the moment, leaving behind the noise and chaos that usually filled her mind. Dr. Samuel Lewis, a renowned psychologist and fervent advocate for mental and physical wellness, often spoke about the profound connection between the body and the spirit. When you honor your body, you honor your spirit, he would say during his seminars. It wasn't just about physical exercise. It was about a conscious acknowledgement of one's existence, taking a moment to breathe deeply, stretch, and feel alive. Alicia had seen the wisdom in his words, having attended one of his workshops months earlier. Alicia's journey to this very moment had been a tapestry of experimentation. At one point, she had tried high-intensity interval training, driven by the mantra no pain, no gain. But her body rebelled, leaving her with persistent knee pain that refused to subside. Frustrated and in discomfort, a friend suggested yoga. "It's not just a workout, it's a work-in," her friend had said, smiling. Skeptical but desperate, Alicia gave it a try. She remembered her first class vividly, the sense of relief that washed over her as she moved through the poses, the realization that her body had a wisdom all its own. Much like Alicia's personal story, countless studies highlight the benefits of integrating physical practices with mindful awareness. One particular study in the Journal of Behavioral Medicine found that individuals who practiced yoga regularly had lower levels of stress hormones and fewer symptoms of anxiety and depression. The simple act of focused movement, whether through yoga, tai chi, or even walking, has been shown to reduce inflammation and improve heart health. It's as if the body, in its intricate design, holds a mirror to the spirit, reflecting peace and equilibrium when treated with respect and love. But the understanding of this connection isn't confined to scientific research. Many spiritual teachings across cultures emphasize the sanctity of the body as a vessel for the spirit. The ancient texts of Ayurveda speak of dashas, energies that govern physiological and psychological functions, insisting on a balanced lifestyle to maintain health. Similarly, indigenous traditions often honor the earth and the body with rituals celebrating their sacredness and interconnectedness. As Alicia transitioned into the savasana, or final resting pose, she felt a deep sense of gratitude. Her mind quieted, and a profound calm settled over her. The class concluded with a chanting of Om, a sound believed to be vibrationally aligned with the universe's heartbeat. In that moment of collective resonance, Alicia felt a unity with herself and the world around her, a powerful reminder that by nurturing her body, she was also nourishing her spirit. Later that evening, walking home, Alicia reflected on Dr. Lewis's words and her own experiences. Honoring her body had become a form of worship, a daily practice she cherished. She realized that in these moments of deliberate care, she was not just enhancing her physical performance. She was, in essence, embracing the flow of life itself. The revelation was as liberating as it was profound, lighting a new path before her, a path of harmonious balance of body and spirit, and she knew this journey was only beginning. Chapter 9. The Science of Flow. Neurology of Flow. Imagine this: you're fully immersed in an activity you love. Time feels like it's bending, warping around you. Hours pass like minutes, and everything falls into place with an almost magical ease. You've just experienced what psychologists call the flow state, a phenomenon where skill meets challenge, creating a perfect storm of productivity and pleasure. But what's happening inside your brain during these moments of blissful immersion? Let's take a journey deep into the cerebral landscape to uncover the riveting dance that turns ordinary tasks into extraordinary experiences. First, a little backstory from my personal life. I once ran a marathon, a grueling 26.2 miles that pushed every limit of my physical and mental endurance. Somewhere around mile 18, everything shifted. My breath synchronized with my steps, fatigue dissolved, and I felt an incredible sense of euphoria. It was as if all the neural circuits in my brain suddenly aligned, creating a seamless flow that carried me through those final, punishing miles. You see, flow states are not merely psychological, they are profoundly neurological. The prefrontal cortex, that part of our brain responsible for higher-order thinking, shifts into a sort of autopilot mode. It's as though the conductor of a symphony orchestra has stepped back, allowing the musicians, your sensory and motor neurons, to take the lead. This results in heightened creativity, increased focus, and an uncanny ability to solve problems. At the heart of this transformation is neurochemistry. In flow, the brain's reward system releases a cocktail of feel-good neurotransmitters: dopamine, norepinephrine, and endorphins. These chemicals not only enhance pleasure, but also improve performance. Think of them as the brain's natural performance-enhancing drugs. They reduce feelings of pain and fatigue, making difficult tasks seem effortless. As we dive deeper, another fascinating player comes to the fore: the anterior cingulate cortex, ACC. Often referred to as the brain's error detection system, the ACC gleams brightly during flow states. It scans for mistakes and quickly adapts, ensuring that every move, every decision is in perfect harmony with the task at hand. Ever heard of the saying, "Lose yourself in the moment"? Scientifically, this loss of self is termed transient hypofrontality. Essentially, parts of your frontal lobes, the areas responsible for self-criticism and self-doubt, quiet down. This creates a meditative, almost spiritual state where you're completely present. Time dilates, and you become one with whatever it is you're doing, whether it's painting, coding, or even conversing. Flow states transcend mere productivity. They touch on something profoundly spiritual. It's as if you're tapping into a higher state of consciousness, where your potential knows no bounds. Many athletes and artists describe this as a connection with something greater, a universal energy or divine inspiration that guides them. As you can see, achieving flow isn't just about getting in the zone. It's a symphonic interplay of neuroscience and spirituality, where mind and body unite to create moments of unparalleled excellence. And while the concept may seem lofty, the beauty of flow lies in its accessibility. By understanding and tapping into these neural processes, we can unlock our own peak performance, turning everyday moments into extraordinary experiences. So the next time you find yourself effortlessly gliding through a task, remember, you're not just in the zone, you're experiencing one of the brain's most wondrous capabilities. And who knows? You might just uncover abilities you never knew you possessed. Psychology of peak performance. I remember the first time I saw a high-wire act at the circus. The performer, suspended dozens of feet above ground, appeared unshakable. With every step, he seemed to defy not just gravity, but the very essence of human frailty. Later, I learned that his captivating performance wasn't just the result of years of physical training. It was rooted deeply in the unexplored recesses of his mind. The psychology behind such peak performance is something that has intrigued scientists, psychologists, and everyday people alike for centuries. Let's explore this with an example perhaps closer to home. Sarah, a pianist. Sarah wasn't a prodigy. She stumbled on keys, missed notes during early performances, and doubted herself frequently. However, her determination was palpable. I remember a conversation with her over coffee one cold afternoon. "It's about finding the zone," she said, her fingers cradling the warm mug. The state where your mind is so attuned to what you're doing, everything else fades away. The zone she referred to is more scientifically known as the flow state. Csikszentmihalyi, a prominent psychologist, popularized the concept of flow, a state of intense focus where you lose sense of time and are fully immersed in your activity. Sarah described it perfectly. When in flow, the brain releases a cocktail of feel-good chemicals like dopamine and endorphins, enhancing performance dramatically. But it's not just about these chemicals. It's about the mind's ability to filter distractions, maintain laser-sharp focus, and harness the power of visualization. Consider another case. John, an Olympian sprinter, shared his pre-race ritual with me. He'd sit quietly in a corner, eyes closed, mentally running through the race over and over again. He wasn't just picturing the physical act of running. He was crafting a mental movie with vibrant clarity. The mind, he said, doesn't distinguish between what's real and vividly imagined. During our chat, he revealed something captivating. Visualization had been a game-changer, transforming his nervous energy into a tool for achieving peak performance. However, peak performance isn't solely about scientific methods. Spirituality plays its part too. Many top performers, including athletes and artists, often speak of a higher purpose or a connection to something greater than themselves. This sense of purpose can act as a powerful motivator. One famous artist I spoke to mentioned how painting felt like a divine mission. In those moments, he said with a distant look in his eye, it's not just me. It's something more profound working through me. Delving deeper into the mind's labyrinth, we find that resilience and mental toughness form the bedrock of peak performance. Life throws curveballs, and the ability to bounce back stronger is crucial. Take, for example, the story of Alex Honnold, the free solo climber who ascended El Capitan without ropes. His journey isn't just about physical prowess. It's a testament to mental fortitude. Facing fears, silencing the inner critic, and pushing beyond perceived limits, these are the cornerstones of his accomplishments. I recall Alex saying in an interview, climbing is as much a mental game as it is a physical one. Every story of peak performance teaches us something unique. As we peel back the layers, we see a tapestry woven with discipline, visualization, purpose, and unparalleled mental strength. The path to exceptional performance isn't a straight line, but a journey filled with highs, lows, and myriad lessons. By understanding these psychological nuances, we can all strive to tap into our own potential, finding our own flow in whatever endeavor we pursue. Flow state and productivity. It's like stepping into another dimension, where time loses its grip and distractions dissolve into nothingness. Imagine being so immersed in a task that the world around you ceases to exist, and all that's left is the pure, unadulterated focus on what you're doing. Welcome to the flow state. If you've ever lost track of time while working on something both challenging and enjoyable, you've experienced it. My friend Julie, a graphic designer, often talks about her late-night flow sessions. One night, she recounted working on a piece for a client. It started as a typical evening, but before she knew it, the clock had moved from 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. She hadn't even noticed. Yet, when she finally paused, the work she'd completed in those 6 hours was nothing short of extraordinary. That, my friends, is the magic of flow. But this isn't just anecdotal. Science backs it up. Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, the psychologist who coined the term, described it as the optimal experience when people are so involved in an activity that nothing else seems to matter. He identified certain conditions that make flow more likely to occur: a balance between the challenge of the task and the individual's skills, clear goals, and immediate feedback. To put it in practical terms, think about an example from the business world. There's a famous story about a software development team that was struggling with deadlines, quality, and motivation. When they learned to identify each member's optimal task type and match it with the right project phase, they began to hit their stride. Assigning a developer tasks that were neither too easy to be boring nor too hard to be frustrating increased engagement and output. Implementing these principles saw their productivity soar. But there's also a spiritual dimension to flow. Many ancient cultures talk about a heightened state of awareness during deeply engaging activities, whether it's martial arts, dance, or meditation. It's like tapping into a universal current of energy. Modern practitioners of mindfulness and yoga describe it as being in alignment, completely present and harmonious with the moment. So how can we cultivate this flow state in our daily lives? It begins with developing self-awareness. Begin by observing when you naturally enter flow. What activities trigger it? What times of day are you most likely to be absorbed in your work? For me, early morning hours are golden. With a cup of coffee and the world still waking up, I can sink into my writing with ease. Another technique is to clear mental and physical clutter. A clean workspace, a predefined task list, and minimization of digital distractions can prime your mind for flow. Music can also set the stage, Instrumental or ambient tracks often help sustain focus without diverting mental resources. Lastly, remember it's a practice. Like any skill, getting into the flow state becomes easier with consistency. When you deliberately create the conditions for flow and practice them regularly, you won't just improve your productivity, you'll enhance your overall life experience. The concept might sound almost too good to be true. Can one really achieve such levels of productivity and fulfillment through a state of mind? Well, here's an intriguing proposition. Why not find out for yourself? Try it. Experiment with these techniques and see where it takes you. You might just discover an untapped reservoir of potential within you, waiting to be unleashed. And trust me, once you tap into the flow, you'll never look at work the same way again. Chapter 10. Embracing Impermanence. The Beauty of Impermanence. It was a quiet afternoon in late autumn when I first stumbled upon my grandmother's journal. The cover was worn, its leather soft and pliable with age, but the pages inside brimmed with vibrant memories and reflections. As I leafed through her delicate handwriting, one entry caught my eye, The Beauty of Impermanence. The title alone felt like a gentle tug, inviting me into a journey of understanding the transient nature of our existence. Life is inherently impermanent. Our days are numbered, and each moment slips into the next with a fluid grace that often goes unnoticed. The ancient Greek philosopher Heraclitus once said, "You cannot step into the same river twice." This metaphor eloquently captures the essence of impermanence. Like a river, life is in constant motion, and every experience, every moment, is unique and unrepeatable. Embracing impermanence isn't just about accepting change, it's about savoring the beauty in fleeting moments. Think of the cherry blossoms in spring. Their blossoms are ephemeral, lasting only a couple of weeks. Yet, their transient beauty prompts thousands to take a moment, look up, and appreciate the delicate, fleeting display. In their short-lived brilliance, cherry blossoms remind us that beauty can be found in temporariness. I recall a conversation with a friend who had spent years studying the teachings of Buddhism. He explained how the concept of anicca, or impermanence, is central to the Buddhist understanding of existence. It teaches that everything, whether it's our thoughts, emotions, or material belongings, is in a constant state of flux. The idea isn't to find despair in this realization, but rather a profound sense of peace. By accepting the transient nature of life, we release our tight grip on what we cannot control. Science, too, offers insights into the beauty of impermanence. Consider the field of quantum physics, which suggests that at a fundamental level, particles are always in motion, always changing. Nothing is static. Similarly, our neural pathways are constantly being rewired through a process known as neuroplasticity. Every experience, every thought, reconfigures the landscape of our minds. This understanding highlights the fluidity of life and how we are all, quite literally, works in progress. As I pondered my grandmother's reflections, I was struck by a sudden realization. Moments of impermanence have woven themselves into the very fabric of my life. The fleeting joy of a child's laughter, the momentary serenity of a sunset, or the profound peace found in a friend's comforting words, these transient moments create a tapestry rich with meaning and beauty. Embracing impermanence means fully engaging with life, appreciating each moment without clinging to it. It's about finding joy and beauty in the here and now, realizing that the evanescent nature of our experiences makes them all the more precious. This perspective doesn't weaken us, it strengthens our resolve to live fully and authentically. As the afternoon light waned and shadows lengthened across the room, I closed my grandmother's journal with a newfound appreciation for the transient nature of life. The journey we'd taken together, through her words, had rekindled a sense of gratitude in my heart. I understood now that in the dance of impermanence, every step, every moment, was a testament to the ever-flowing river of life. And with that understanding, I felt a deep connection to the world around me, a seamless continuity that blurred the boundaries between past, present, and future. It was in this timeless flow that I found an enduring beauty, a continuous celebration of life's impermanent, ever-changing essence. Letting go of attachments. As the morning sun poured into my apartment, bathing everything in a golden hue, I couldn't help but notice the clutter that had quietly amassed over the years. Artifacts of a life lived and possibly taken too seriously. Books I hadn't read, souvenirs from trips long past, and clothes I'd never wear. Every inch of my space seemed to whisper a story, but collectively, they shouted, "I'm overwhelmed." I remember a conversation with my grandmother, a woman deeply spiritual yet profoundly practical. She'd once told me, holding on to things you no longer need isn't just cluttering your home, it's cluttering your soul. At the time, I dismissed her wisdom as quaint, something only the elderly, with their love of parables, would say. But I began to realize the profound truth in her simple words. And so, I embarked on the journey of letting go. I started with the tangible things, those items that could be physically touched and seen. I held each object and asked, does this add value to my life? If the answer was no, it was time to part ways. It wasn't just about decluttering my apartment, it was about freeing myself from the webs that bound me, both seen and unseen. Decluttering my possessions was only the first step. The more significant challenge rested deep within: emotional attachments. We all have them, those invisible strings tying us to past traumas, regrets, and even to people whose presence in our lives might not be beneficial. It's one thing to let go of an old pair of jeans, but quite another to release feelings of guilt or to move beyond a failed relationship. Science even supports this notion of letting go. Studies have shown that people who practice non-attachment tend to be happier and more content. Attachment, after all, brings anxiety. We fear losing what we have, whether it's a material object or a significant other. And the more we cling, the more we find ourselves entangled in a web of our own making. Interestingly, the concept of non-attachment isn't a modern invention. It's deeply rooted in ancient spiritual teachings. Buddhists, for instance, believe that attachment is the root of all suffering. In the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna instructs Arjuna to perform his duties without being attached to the outcomes. Across various religions and cultures, the message is clear: letting go is fundamental to personal liberation. But how do we achieve such an elusive state? For me, it began with mindfulness. Paying attention to the present moment and acknowledging my emotions without becoming beholden to them. Reflective practices like meditation became daily rituals. Each breath, a reminder to let go. Every exhale, an opportunity for release. One of my most powerful realizations came during a meditation retreat. It was there I learned that our attachments often stem from a deep-seated feeling of inadequacy or fear. When we don't feel whole within ourselves, we cling to external objects or people to fill the void. By cultivating a sense of inner completeness, the urge to attach weakened substantially. As days turned into weeks, I noticed subtle shifts in my life. Freed from the burden of material possessions and emotional baggage, I found myself moving more fluidly through my days. I was more present in my interactions, more spontaneous in my decisions. What I had once considered empty space in my apartment, I now saw as room to breathe and grow. There was one final test, perhaps the most challenging of all. As I was tidying up, I came across an old letter from a friend long estranged. This piece of my past had lingered at the bottom of a drawer, quietly haunting me. It was hard to let go of the tangible remnants of an intimate connection that once brought joy but ultimately ended in heartache. With a deep breath, I folded the letter and let it drift into the trash. It was time to release the last lingering ghost. In the end, letting go of attachments isn't about renouncing the world or becoming indifferent. It's about recognizing the beauty and impermanence of life and finding joy in the freedom that comes with non-attachment. It's about loving deeply, yet lightly, and understanding that our true wealth lies not in what we possess, but in who we become. As I stood back and admired my newly decluttered space, I felt a sense of peace and clarity that I hadn't known before. Indeed, my grandmother was right. Sometimes, the most important things we hold are the ones we release. Embracing change. Change is the one constant we can always rely on in life. From the seasons shifting to the journey of growing older, it's a universal truth. Yet, despite its inevitability, change can often bring anxiety, uncertainty, and resistance. But what if we viewed change through a different lens, one of possibility and growth? Every alteration in our course offers a new beginning, a chance to reinvent ourselves and our reality. Take, for instance, the story of my friend Lucas. Lucas had worked in the same corporate job for over a decade. It was comfortable, predictable, and safe. Then, one fateful day, he was laid off. Initially, it felt like the rug had been pulled out from under him. Fear and doubt clouded his mind. The future seemed bleak and uncertain. But as the days turned into weeks, something interesting happened. Lucas found himself exploring passions he had long forgotten. He began painting again, an old hobby he loved, but had shelved in his quest for a stable career. With time, painting turned from a mere pastime into a full-fledged career. Lucas started selling his art online and eventually held exhibitions. He often tells me that getting laid off was the best thing that ever happened to him. It pushed him out of his comfort zone and into a world where he could be true to his creative self. Lucas's story is a powerful testament to the opportunities that lie hidden within change. What seems like an ending can often be a beginning in disguise. It's not just anecdotal evidence that supports the benefits of embracing change. Scientific studies have demonstrated that our brains are wired to adapt. Neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to reorganize itself by forming new neural connections, shows that we're capable of change not just emotionally or mentally, but biologically. When we step into new experiences, our brains create new pathways that increase our cognitive flexibility and emotional resilience. We become more adept at problem-solving and better equipped to handle life's challenges. Spiritual traditions also echo this sentiment, encouraging us to flow with life's currents rather than resist them. The Taoist concept of Wu Wei, or effortless action, teaches that harmony in life comes from being in tune with the natural world and accepting change gracefully. Similarly, the Hindu philosophy of samsara views life as a continuous cycle of birth, death, and rebirth, highlighting the transient nature of our existence and the importance of growth through change. So, where does that leave us? In a world full of inevitable changes, approaching each shift with openness and curiosity can transform our experience. Instead of fearing the unknown, we can see it as an adventure, ripe with possibilities. By embracing change, we build resilience, discover new passions, and often find a life far richer and more fulfilling than we could have ever imagined. Like the butterfly that emerges gracefully from its chrysalis, the process of metamorphosis might be challenging, even painful at times, but the result is a profound transformation. The lesson is clear. Change is not something to be feared, but something to be embraced with open arms and an open heart. As we lean into the future, may we all find the strength and courage to embrace the changes that come our way, knowing that they hold the keys to our growth and the unfolding of our true potential. Chapter 11. The Path of Mastery. Commitment to Growth. It was a crisp autumn morning when I first stumbled upon the concept of a growth mindset. Much like the leaves changing color, something within me started to shift. I was reading a book by Carol Dweck, which spoke of the incredible power our beliefs, both conscious and unconscious, have over our lives. The idea was simple yet profound. View challenges as opportunities rather than threats. As I pondered this, I recalled countless instances where fear of failure had held me back, clipping the wings of potential before I even had the chance to soar. Psychologically speaking, the growth mindset is more than just positive thinking. It's a fundamental belief that our abilities can be developed through dedication and hard work. This viewpoint fosters enthusiasm for learning and resilience, key components for achieving what psychologists call flow. Flow, described by Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, is that state of being where you're so immersed in an activity that everything else fades away. Time, stress, and even hunger disappear, leaving you in a blissful state of focus and productivity. Imagine a surfer riding a wave, completely in sync with the ocean's rhythm, each movement instinctive and effortless. That's flow. One of the most striking examples I encountered was during a conversation with a friend, Sarah, who had turned her life around by embracing this mindset. She narrated how, after years of feeling stuck in a dead-end job, she decided enough was enough. With the grit and determination of a climber scaling a steep mountain, she started to view every setback as a lesson rather than a failure. Each rejection became a stepping stone, molding her into a stronger, wiser individual. Today, Sarah is not only successful in her career, but radiates a sense of fulfillment I could only aspire to achieve. Of course, commitment to growth isn't solely anchored in psychology. There's a spiritual dimension to it as well. Many ancient philosophies, from Buddhism to Stoicism, emphasize the transformation that comes from within. They teach us to embrace change, to flow with life's current rather than against it. As someone who has dabbled in meditation, I can attest to the serenity that comes from aligning oneself with these timeless principles. It's like tuning an instrument. Once you find the right pitch, everything harmonizes perfectly. However, the real magic happens when these elements, psychological theories, personal anecdotes, and spiritual practices, merge, forming a holistic approach to growth. Begin by setting small, achievable goals. Celebrate each victory, no matter how minute. Surround yourself with positive influences, whether they be people, books, or even podcasts. Reflect regularly on your journey, journaling your thoughts and insights. And most importantly, be kind to yourself. Growth isn't a race, it's a lifelong journey. Right now, you might be at the foot of your own mountain, gazing up at the peak that seems so distant, so unattainable. Trust me, I've been there. But remember, every master was once a beginner. The first step, though it may be the hardest, is simply deciding to take that step. The rest, as they say, is history. As I pen these words, I feel a familiar warmth spreading within, a sense of purpose and possibility that comes from knowing I'm not alone on this path. We're all on our personal journeys, bound by the shared human quest for growth. And as we commit to this pursuit, we not only transform ourselves, but also inspire others. The end of the chapter approaches, but in reality, this is just the beginning. Whatever your starting point, embrace the journey and watch how the world begins to change, one small step at a time. Learning from failure. We all know that sinking feeling when something goes wrong, don't we? Whether it's a missed promotion or a botched project, failure has a unique way of making us feel like the world is crashing down around us. But what if we could turn those moments into something powerful and transformative? I remember vividly, during my high school years, being on the brink of tears after losing a crucial basketball game. Coach Davis, a man with a gruff exterior but a heart of gold, pulled me aside and said, "Kid, failure is just success in progress." I didn't get it then. It sounded like another cliched pep talk. Only years later, when I flunked my first major business pitch, did his words and the wisdom behind them finally hit home. Failures are like unwelcome guests, but they often bring the most meaningful lessons. Take Thomas Edison for instance. He's famously quoted for saying, I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work. His perseverance through countless unsuccessful attempts led to breakthroughs that not only illuminated our homes, but also paved the way for future inventors. Science backs this up too. Studies suggest that failure activates the brain's learning centers more than success does, reinforcing new neural pathways that ultimately make us more competent and resilient. Dr. Carol Dweck's research at Stanford University introduced the world to the concept of a growth mindset. Essentially, she discovered that people who believe their abilities can be developed through hard work and dedication are more likely to embrace challenges, learn from criticism, and ultimately achieve higher levels of success. This contrasts starkly with a fixed mindset, where individuals see their abilities as static, often leading to a fear of failure and avoidance of risks. But the wisdom of learning from failure isn't just limited to science. Spiritual teachings across cultures have emphasized the transformative power of setbacks for centuries. In Buddhism, for instance, the concept of suffering or dukkha isn't merely about pain. It's about the intrinsic part of life that reminds us to seek enlightenment and growth. Similarly, the Japanese principle of wabi-sabi finds beauty in imperfection, teaching us that flaws and failures are part of the journey rather than detours from it. Let's come back to practical advice. How do we turn detours into milestones of progress? One powerful strategy is to reframe failure as feedback. Instead of saying, "I failed at this," try rephrasing it to, "This attempt didn't work. What can I learn from it?" This subtle shift can have monumental impacts on how we perceive and react to setbacks. Reflecting on what went wrong, seeking constructive criticism, and planning the next steps can turn the sting of failure into a stepping stone toward success. It's also vital to cultivate a support system. Surround yourself with people who can offer objective perspectives, bolster your spirits, and lend a helping hand when you're down. They say it takes a village to raise a child, but it also takes a village to navigate through failures and come out stronger on the other side. Be it mentors, friends, or family, having a network of support can make the rough patches seem a little smoother. I think back to Coach Davis again. His rough hands on my shoulder, steady eyes looking into mine, instilled a lesson I cherish. Failure isn't falling down, it's staying down. Life will inevitably throw curveballs our way. But each misstep, each fall, isn't a reason to give up. It's an invitation to rise, to try again armed with the wisdom we didn't have before. Remember, failure is never an end. It's an opportunity camouflaged as a setback. Embrace it, learn from it, and let it guide you toward a future where the lessons of today forge the successes of tomorrow. And in those moments when failure knocks you flat, let it remind you that every fall has the potential to be the launching pad for an incredible leap forward. The lifelong journey of mastery. As the sun dipped below the horizon, throwing a warm glow over her small studio, Amelia set down her paintbrush and stepped back to admire her latest work. She had taken up painting 5 years ago, initially as a means to unwind from her stressful job. What began as a hobby soon transformed into a passionate pursuit, consuming her evenings and weekends. Each stroke, each color choice, seemed to bring her closer to an elusive sense of mastery. But with every milestone reached, she discovered new heights to aspire to. One evening, over a cup of tea, Amelia reminisced about her early days struggling to mix the right shades. She chuckled, recalling her first canvas that ended up a muddy mess. Yet, amidst those initial failures, she found moments of pure joy, when 2 colors blended perfectly, or when a brushstroke captured the essence of a flower petal just right. Those small victories fueled her, pushing her to explore more, learn more, and ultimately, master more. Amelia's journey was far from solitary. She often sought wisdom from seasoned painters and even attended workshops led by world-renowned artists. One such mentor, an elderly painter named Roberto, once told her, "Mastery isn't a destination, Amelia. It's a path you walk every day. It's in the endless curiosity, the hunger to learn, and the joy of discovering something new each time. Roberto's words echoed in her mind, guiding her through both the highs and lows of her artistic journey. But mastery wasn't confined to art alone. It permeated every aspect of life, she realized. Amelia thought of her friend, Lucas, who had dedicated decades to martial arts. His precision, discipline, and relentless practice stood as a testament to lifelong learning. Lucas often described his practice not just as a series of movements, but as a dance with the spirit, an interplay of mind, body, and soul. In every punch, in every stance, he would say, there's a lesson waiting to be discovered. Curious about the science behind this relentless pursuit, Amelia dove into research on skill acquisition. Studies suggested that mastering a skill involves creating and strengthening neural pathways in the brain. The more one practiced, the more efficient these pathways became. This scientific insight added a layer of fascination to her work. Each brushstroke was not just a step toward a finished painting, but a mold of her brain's plasticity, an imprint of her evolving capabilities. Yet, there was also a spiritual dimension to mastery that couldn't be overlooked. Amelia often meditated before starting a painting session. She'd sit quietly, inhaling the scents of turpentine and fresh canvas, allowing her mind to clear. In those moments, she felt a profound connection to something larger than herself, as if each stroke was guided by an unseen hand. This blend of the tangible and intangible, the scientific and the spiritual, made her journey all the more enriching. One rainy night, as she sat by the window, watching droplets race down the glass, Amelia pondered over a thought Roberto planted in her mind years ago. True mastery, he had said, lies not in the perfection but in the process. It's the continuous pursuit, the never-ending quest to be better, to understand deeper, and to appreciate the nuances. She realized, with a gentle smile, that her journey was indeed infinite. And in that limitless path lay the true essence of mastery. As the clock struck midnight, she returned to her canvas. With renewed vigor, Amelia picked up her brush, ready to dive back into that boundless ocean of discovery. Despite the countless hours she'd already spent, the thrill of learning something new, of mastering just one more technique, was as intoxicating as ever. Little did she know, a breakthrough awaited her, one that would not only elevate her art, but also transform her perception of what it meant to be a master. Chapter 12. Beyond Fear, Courage and Confidence. Confronting Fear. Fear, that age-old adversary lurking in the shadows, often stands as a significant barrier to achieving a state of flow. For many, fear appears insurmountable, a towering obstacle that paralyzes dreams and ambitions. Yet, understanding its nature and origins can dismantle its power. Take, for instance, the first time I stood before an audience of hundreds to recite a poem. My heart thundered in my chest, my palms grew clammy, and my mind swirled with self-doubt. The fear of public speaking is one of the most common phobias, rooted deeply in our primal need to be accepted by the tribe. But, as I began to recite, I let each word be a step towards confronting this deep-seated anxiety. With every verse, the fear lessened. By the end, it had transformed into a sense of exhilarating achievement. This experience taught me that fear often diminishes in the face of action. Psychological insights provide us with valuable tools to navigate and overcome fear. Cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, for example, emphasizes the importance of challenging irrational fears by exposing ourselves to the very situations that scare us, gradually and repeatedly. This method, known as exposure therapy, helps rewire the brain, reducing the fear response over time. Scientific studies show that as we face our fears, we build resilience, and our capacity to handle stress improves. There's also a spiritual facet to confronting fear. Many spiritual traditions, from Buddhism to Stoicism, teach us to embrace our fears, seeing them as opportunities for growth. Instead of avoiding fear, they encourage us to look it in the eye, to understand it as a natural part of the human experience. By acknowledging our fears without judgment, we can begin to dismantle their hold over us. Meditation and mindfulness practices are particularly effective in this realm, teaching us to observe our fears without becoming entangled in them. Consider the story of Sarah, a close friend who faced her fear of water after a near-drowning incident in childhood. For years, she avoided swimming pools and beaches, missing out on countless social events. Determined to reclaim her life, she enrolled in swimming lessons, starting in the shallow end and gradually working her way deeper. It wasn't easy, each step required immense courage, but with persistence, she conquered her fear. Today, Sarah is an avid swimmer who finds peace and joy in the water, a testament to the transformative power of confronting fear. So, how can you begin to confront your fears? Start by identifying what you're afraid of and why. Write it down, examine its roots, and visualize a positive outcome. Engage in gradual exposure, taking small steps towards facing the fear until it no longer feels overwhelming. Lean on supportive friends or a therapist if needed, and incorporate mindfulness practices into your routine to stay grounded. In the end, fear need not be a permanent barrier. With bravery, psychological tools, and a touch of spiritual wisdom, it can be transformed from a debilitating obstacle into a stepping stone towards greater confidence and fulfillment. As we bravely face our fears, we not only move closer to achieving flow but also unlock the boundless potential within us. Building inner strength. It was a crisp autumn morning when I first learned about resilience from the most unlikely of teachers, a fallen oak tree. Walking through the park, I noticed its immense trunk shattered, yet new growth sprouted defiantly from its base. Nature, in its quiet wisdom, was showing me the first lesson in building inner strength: adaptation. Science confirms what that oak tree exemplified. Research by psychologists like Martin Seligman shows that resilience isn't a trait we either have or don't have, it's something we can all cultivate. His studies on positive psychology reveal that inner strength is built through a combination of genetics, environment, and crucially, our own purposeful actions. Seligman talks about learned optimism, the idea that by challenging negative self-talk and reframing our thoughts, we can enhance our mental resilience. But what does this look like in everyday life? Let's take Sarah, a single mother of two who managed to put herself through nursing school while holding down 2 jobs. Sarah's story isn't just one of survival but triumph. She didn't just endure challenges, she grew from them. She told me, every setback was a setup for a comeback. I learned to see obstacles as opportunities to build my inner fortitude. This approach mirrors the principles found in ancient spiritual teachings. The Bhagavad Gita, for instance, speaks volumes about inner resilience. It advises focusing on one's actions without attachment to the results, a practice known as karma yoga. This mindset cultivates strength by keeping us grounded in the present and reducing anxiety about the future. Interestingly, the intersection of science and spirituality offers us practical tools. Mindfulness meditation, a practice rooted in Eastern traditions, has been shown to reduce symptoms of anxiety and depression, enhancing our mental resilience. Studies from reputable institutions like Harvard Medical School indicate that mindfulness increases the density of gray matter in brain regions associated with learning, memory, and emotional regulation. To enhance inner strength, start small. Incorporate practices like daily gratitude journaling, which has been shown to shift our focus from what's going wrong to what's going right. It's like reinforcing your mental defenses, one positive thought at a time. Did you know that even a simple habit of writing down 3 things you're grateful for every day can significantly lower stress levels and increase feelings of happiness, according to research from the University of California, Davis? As we journey through life, challenges are inevitable. But building inner strength ensures that when storms come, we don't just withstand. We sway, we bend, and sometimes, like the oak tree, we may even break. But from those fractured pieces, new shoots will always emerge, reaching ever skyward. And so, with a blend of scientific insight, spiritual wisdom, and practical tools, we can all cultivate the resilience needed to not merely survive but thrive. Empowering self-confidence. As the morning sun filtered through the curtains, Maria sat on the edge of her bed, contemplating the day's tasks. It wasn't that the list was unbearably long. It was her nagging doubt that weighed heavily on her mind. She felt like she was always one step behind, never quite reaching the peak of her potential. Yet, within her, there was a flicker of hope, a belief that perhaps, with just a bit more self-confidence, she could find her way to a more dynamic, fulfilling life. When we talk about self-confidence, it's easy to imagine it as something you're either born with or not. But in reality, self-confidence is much like a muscle. It requires regular training and conditioning. Scientists have studied this extensively, discovering that confidence isn't just a fixed trait but a skill that can be cultivated and honed over time. To illustrate, let me tell you about Sam. Sam was an average guy with dreams that seemed impossibly distant. He envied those who seemed to glide effortlessly through challenges, basking in their own sense of purpose. It wasn't until Sam attended a seminar on the psychology of achievement that he began to see self-confidence in a new light. The speaker, an accomplished athlete turned motivational coach, shared an uplifting story about his own journey from insecurity to self-assuredness. The coach explained that he hadn't always been confident. In fact, he had once been riddled with doubt and low self-esteem. He spoke of a pivotal moment when he decided to take control of his narrative. He began small, setting achievable goals and celebrating each success, no matter how minor it seemed. Visualization techniques played a crucial role. He would vividly imagine himself succeeding, feeling the emotions as if the accomplishments had already been attained. Inspired, Sam decided to embark on a similar journey. He started with a practical exercise, writing down his strengths and achievements, no matter how insignificant they appeared. Each day, he'd add at least one new item to the list. This exercise soon became a treasure trove of positivity that he could revisit whenever doubt crept in. Over time, his confidence grew, not only in his personal life, but in his professional endeavors as well. He found himself taking on challenges that he previously shied away from, and with each success, his self-belief soared. Maria, reflecting on Sam's story, felt a surge of motivation. She realized that building self-confidence wasn't about miraculously transforming overnight, but about committing to a series of small, deliberate steps. She decided to start her day with a simple affirmation, standing in front of the mirror and stating, "I am capable. I am strong. I can achieve anything I set my mind to." The mind is a powerful instrument, and there's a spiritual element to this journey as well. Many spiritual traditions teach that our thoughts shape our reality. This isn't mere wishful thinking but a profound truth. By consistently feeding positive, empowering thoughts into our minds, we begin to shift our perception of what's possible. The alignment of our subconscious mind with our conscious aspirations can lead to what psychologists describe as flow, a state where we are fully immersed and engaged in our tasks, performing at our highest potential. As the day wore on, Maria felt the first inklings of change. Each task she completed became a building block, adding to her newfound sense of self-assurance. By evening, she marveled at how different she felt from just a few hours ago. It was as if she had unlocked a hidden potential within herself, a reservoir of strength and confidence just waiting to be tapped into. In the stillness of the night, Maria pondered the future. She knew the road ahead would have its challenges, but with every step forward, her self-confidence would grow. She fell asleep with a smile, dreaming not of distant, unattainable goals, but of the myriad possibilities within her reach, feeling an eagerness to embrace the adventure that lay ahead. Chapter 13. The Alchemy of Passion. Unleashing Creative Passion. It was a cold Saturday morning when I first realized I had lost touch with my creative self. My once cherished canvas basked in a sea of dust, the paint tubes dried up, a reminder of the untapped well of imagination within me. Like a forgotten melody looping in the back of my mind, the urge to create was there, stifled yet persistent. Creativity, I learned, isn't some elusive muse that visits sporadically. It's a muscle, one that requires regular exercise. Think of it like this: our brains are wired to connect seemingly unrelated dots. Neuroscientists refer to this as divergent thinking. Much like how we build physical strength through continuous effort, sustaining creative energy demands consistent exploration and willingness to take risks. When I finally decided to dive back into painting, I adopted a morning ritual. Before the hustle of daily life engulfed me, I'd spend 30 minutes with my brush and palette, letting the colors guide me. I'd like to think that spiritual insight whispered a truth: to create without judgment, to just be in that moment of flow and let the process take precedence over the outcome. The initial days were frustrating, no doubt. My strokes were clumsy, the colors conflicted rather than harmonized. But slowly, the canvas transformed from a battlefield to a playground. Writing mirrored this journey. Each story started rough, like uncut gemstones waiting for refinement. The magic unfolded not in the moments of clarity, but in the relentless pursuit of those fleeting eureka instances. I remember a conversation with an old friend who felt trapped in the monotony of his finance job. "I used to sketch," he admitted, almost as if confessing a vice. "Now I barely have the time." We sat together one evening, a bottle of wine between us, and rediscovered his love for sketching. Hours passed like minutes, and the final sketch was a testament to his rekindled passion. That night, we understood that creativity isn't just an escape. It's a lifeline. So, how do we sustain this vital force? By creating rituals that allow our brains to venture beyond rigid boundaries, whether it's through meditation, nature walks, or journaling. Cultivating curiosity and embracing imperfections makes the process an adventure. Each brush stroke, each keystroke, becomes a step in a dance with the divine, with the unknown. As we parted ways, my friend whispered, "Thank you. I feel alive again." That was the moment I realized: unleashing creative passion isn't just about the art we produce. It's about reconnecting with our essence, our childlike wonder, that part of us that dares to dream without restraint. This journey is ongoing, laden with both triumphs and setbacks. But every moment spent in pursuit of our creative instincts is a defiance against the mundane. And so, with each day, we continue to paint, write, sing, dance, and sketch our way back to life, honoring the ever-unfolding tapestry of our souls. Fueling purposeful pursuits. Imagine yourself standing at the edge of a vast, untamed forest. The air is thick with the earthy scent of pine, and the only sound that reaches your ears is the whisper of the wind through the trees. It's a scene that feels simultaneously daunting and exhilarating. Every step you take into the unknown takes courage, but it also unlocks a treasure trove of experiences beyond the familiar. This is the essence of pursuing a purpose-driven life, a journey filled with challenges and triumphs that shape who you are meant to be. Let me take you back to when I first realized that my life was meandering without a true sense of direction. I was working a 9-to-5 job, clocking in and out with mechanical precision. On paper, I had everything: a steady paycheck, benefits, even a vague roadmap for climbing the corporate ladder. Yet, a gnawing feeling of emptiness settled in my chest every Sunday evening as I prepared for another week of autopilot existence. Something was missing. My days lacked that intoxicating blend of motivation and joy that comes from doing something deeply meaningful. It wasn't until I came across Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi's concept of flow that things started to click into place. Csikszentmihalyi, a pioneering psychologist, described flow as a mental state where one becomes fully immersed and engaged in an activity. This state often occurs when the challenge of the task at hand aligns perfectly with our skills, pushing us to stretch just beyond our current limits. In flow, time seems to fly by, and there's an exhilarating sense of fulfillment that is profoundly addictive. Science reveals that purpose magnifies the potential to experience flow. Think about it. When your pursuits are aligned with your core values and aspirations, you're naturally more invested, more passionate. Take the story of Sarah, a dear friend of mine who left her corporate job to start a nonprofit aiming to provide arts education to underprivileged kids. She poured every ounce of her being into this mission, and watching her come alive in the process was nothing short of inspiring. Her actions were driven by a purpose so personal and profound that it ignited a relentless drive within her. Every hurdle, from funding challenges to logistic nightmares, became just another part of her exhilarating climb. This intersection of purpose and flow is not just some lofty ideal, it's a practical pathway to transforming our everyday lives. When our actions resonate deeply with our inner values and personal mission, we unlock reserves of energy, creativity, and resilience that we might never have known existed. It's not an easy journey, but it's indescribably rewarding. Consider the words of Viktor Frankl, a Holocaust survivor and psychiatrist, who argued that the primary drive in human beings is not pleasure, as Freud suggested, but the pursuit of what we find meaningful. Frankl's own harrowing experiences in Nazi concentration camps led him to realize that those who envisioned a meaningful future had a higher chance of survival. They had a why to live, which pulled them through unimaginable hardship. So, how do we find this elusive purpose? The answer lies in introspection and action. Start by asking the hard questions. What makes you come alive? What injustices make your blood boil? What legacy do you want to leave behind? This isn't about finding immediate answers, but rather about sparking a journey of discovery. For me, it was a series of small, seemingly inconsequential steps that led me away from my corporate cocoon and into the vibrant world of writing and storytelling. The road to fulfilling one's purpose is neither straight nor smooth, but therein lies its beauty. The bumps and turns are what make our journey uniquely ours, filled with moments of wonder that we wouldn't trade for anything. And as you step deeper into this journey, you'll find that the flow state isn't just a fleeting experience, but becomes a natural byproduct of living intentionally. As you stand at the edge of your own metaphorical forest, take a deep breath and embrace the adventure that lies ahead. Fuel your pursuits with purpose, and watch as the pathway to your most authentic self begins to unfold in the most extraordinary ways. Living with purpose. When the word purpose comes up in conversation, it often feels as grandiose as the stars in the night sky. For some, it invokes images of Nobel laureates or astronauts planting flags on alien soils. But what if I told you that living with purpose doesn't necessarily mean those monumental achievements? It starts with understanding what lights your inner spark. I remember a moment in college, sitting in a crowded cafeteria, when the buzz of chatter melted away, and I found myself engrossed in a book on philosophy. I felt an odd yet comforting sense of calm. It was in that fleeting moment I realized my fascination with the human condition. Living with purpose, I've come to learn, begins with a curiosity, a question that tugs at you. Scientific research supports this notion. Studies have shown that those who pursue what genuinely interests them often report higher levels of happiness and satisfaction. It's not about finding an immediate answer, but engaging in a continuous exploration. Think of purpose as a North Star, not a destination but a guiding light. Spiritual insights offer a complementary perspective. Ancient scriptures emphasize the idea of dharma, or calling. It is believed that each soul is born with a unique role or function, a puzzle piece in the grand mosaic of life. For instance, my friend Lena discovered her calling in the unlikeliest of places, an animal shelter. What began as a weekend volunteer gig turned into a lifelong advocacy for animal welfare. Her face lights up when she talks about rescuing animals, and I've never seen her more alive. Imagine every day as an opportunity to take one small step towards uncovering your unique purpose. Maybe it's helping others, creating art, or solving complex problems. The key is to blend your talents and passions with the needs of the world. Viktor Frankl, a Holocaust survivor and psychologist, profoundly stated, "Everyone has their own specific vocation or mission in life." In his darkest hours, he found a sense of purpose by focusing on the idea of helping others through his suffering. You don't need a dramatic event to start this journey. Sometimes, it's a whisper rather than a shout. Begin by paying attention to what genuinely excites you, what you lose track of time doing. Keep a journal. Jot down moments when you feel most alive. And don't be afraid to follow those breadcrumbs, no matter how trivial they may seem. They could lead to something larger than you ever imagined. Living with purpose is an evolving journey filled with ups and downs, triumphs and trials. And just when you think you've figured it out, life has a way of throwing a curveball your way. The real magic lies not in having all the answers, but in wholeheartedly engaging with the questions. Every story, mine, Lena's, and even yours, adds a verse to the eternal symphony of purpose. Chapter 14. Timelessness. Flow in Practice. Flow in Art and Music. The gallery was an oasis of tranquility. Sunlight filtered through large windows, casting a warm, inviting glow on the paintings that adorned the walls. As I moved from one piece to the next, I couldn't help but notice a certain magic in the air. It was as if each brushstroke, each meld of colors, had a life of its own. It was here that I met Sarah, a painter whose works had an ethereal quality that left viewers entranced. "I call it the sweet spot," Sarah explained, sipping her black coffee. Her eyes sparkled with a blend of wisdom and passion. "When I'm painting, I lose track of time. It's like the world around me fades away, and I'm completely absorbed in what I'm creating." She leaned in, sharing a knowing smile. "That's what scientists call flow." I had heard of flow before, but listening to Sarah describe it made it tangible. Her paintings were not just art, they were manifestations of her deepest, most powerful states of being. Psychologist Mihai Csikszentmihalyi described flow as a state of optimal experience where one is fully immersed in an activity with focused energy and joy. But Sarah's eyes told a story that science could only hope to quantify. Her connection to her work was spiritual, transcendent. Intrigued by Sarah's account, I sought out musicians who might share a similar experience. At a jazz club downtown, I found Marcus, a saxophonist known for his soul-stirring solos. "Man, when I'm in the groove, it's like the music is playing me, not the other way around," he said, his fingers mimicking the flow of notes into the air. "It's an incredible feeling, almost like an out-of-body experience." Marcus' description resonated deeply with what Sarah had shared. Both of them described a loss of self-consciousness, a merging of action and awareness. I realized that flow in art and music was more than just a mental state. It was an almost mystical union of artist and medium. Studies revealed that during flow, the prefrontal cortex, the brain's command center, quieted down, allowing creative processes to flourish without the constraints of self-doubt or overthinking. One evening, Sarah invited me to her studio. The room was cluttered yet oddly harmonious, much like her art. She guided me through a meditation exercise she performed before painting. "This helps me transition into flow," she explained. The moment she lifted her brush, the transformation was evident. It was as if she channeled an unseen force, each stroke a testament to her intimate dance with creativity. Similarly, Marcus walked me through his pre-performance ritual. "Breathing is key," he said, taking deep, measured breaths. "It grounds you, opens you up to the music." Watching him on stage later that night, I saw the same seamless immersion. His saxophone seemed to breathe life itself, each note a pulse of the universe's heartbeat. The synchronicity between Sarah and Marcus's experiences was mesmerizing. Both their lives vividly illustrated how flow could elevate the act of creation to sublime heights. It was clear that the state of flow was not just about peak performance or productivity. It was a profound connection to something greater than oneself, a fusion of mind, body, and spirit. This chapter in my exploration of flow uncovered an undeniable truth. In art and music, flow is the heartbeat. Through their unwavering dedication and open-hearted pursuit of their crafts, creatives like Sarah and Marcus tap into a universal rhythm that resonates deeply within us all. As I left the gallery and jazz club, their stories echoing in my mind, I felt a newfound appreciation for the magic that is flow. It wasn't just a scientific concept. It was the very essence of human creativity, a testimony to the boundless potential within us all. Flow in sports and athletics. There are moments in your life that set the course of who you're gonna be. Sometimes they're subtle, sometimes they're not. Those were the words my coach told me before I won my first marathon. Little did I know, he was talking about the flow, a term that would come to define my entire athletic career. Flow, or the zone, is more than just an athlete's best friend. It's the key to unlocking peak performance. It's that state where everything clicks, where the world narrows to just the task at hand. Science tells us that during flow, the brain releases a cocktail of performance-enhancing chemicals: dopamine, noradrenaline, endorphins, and anandamide. Each of these plays a pivotal role in improving focus, reaction time, and even pain tolerance. I remember interviewing Michael, a sprinter who went from local meets to the Olympics. "It feels like time slows down," he said, recalling his first experience entering the flow state. "Every muscle in my body was aligned perfectly. It was like I was one with the track beneath my feet. I was running, but it felt effortless, like gliding." There's a certain spirituality to flow that many athletes describe. It's almost mystical. Ellen, a professional snowboarder, shared how flow felt more like a transcendental experience for her. High up in the mountains, it's just you, the board, and the snow. The world fades away. Each turn is poetry, and every jump is a leap of faith. It's an out-of-body experience. But it's not just elite athletes who can tap into this magical state. Dr. Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, the psychologist who coined the term flow, explained that flow can be experienced by anyone in various activities, not just sports. He outlined several conditions for achieving flow: clear goals, immediate feedback, and a balance between skill and challenge. Yet, achieving flow isn't about chasing the next high. It's about practice and mindfulness, aligning body, mind, and spirit in the pursuit of excellence. It's about transcending the self while being intensely present. For many athletes, it's what turns good into extraordinary and training sessions into moments of pure bliss. So, candidly speaking, what makes flow such an alluring yet elusive state? Is it the chemical rush in our brains, the spiritual transcendence, or the seamless integration of body and mind? Maybe it's all of these. As athletes chase this state, they often find themselves not just breaking records, but redefining personal limits. With every stride, jump, or throw, they discover new dimensions within themselves. Just like my first marathon win, each of us has moments that set the course of who we become. For athletes, it's the flow that turns the mundane into the magnificent. And maybe, just maybe, the pursuit of flow is what keeps us all striving, on and off the field. Flow in everyday activities. Have you ever washed dishes and suddenly realized half an hour had passed without you noticing? Or perhaps you were gardening, completely absorbed in planting, weeding, and watering. That's the magic of flow, a state of being so immersed in an activity that time seems to dissolve. As a novelist, I find this concept fascinating and deeply relatable. After all, isn't writing itself an exercise in finding flow? So, what is flow, exactly? Coined by psychologist Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, flow occurs when you're deeply engaged in an activity that is both challenging and rewarding. It's that perfect balance where you are neither bored nor overwhelmed. Imagine, for instance, cooking a new recipe that requires your full attention, yet isn't so difficult that it feels impossible. That sense of satisfaction as you stir, taste, and adjust seasonings, that's flow at work. In my life, I've experienced flow not only while writing but also during the most mundane tasks. Take ironing clothes. I know, it sounds tedious, but there's something almost meditative about the rhythmic motion, the hiss of the steam, and the transformation of wrinkled fabric into crisp perfection. I let my mind wander, thinking of new plot twists or characters for my next novel. It's in these moments that ideas often bloom. If you're thinking, this sounds great, but how do I actually find flow in my daily life? Here are a few suggestions. First, choose activities that you find intrinsically rewarding. It might be organizing your home, knitting, or even solving puzzles. When you engage in tasks that genuinely interest you, flow is more likely to occur. Second, minimize distractions. Flow thrives in environments where your focus can remain uninterrupted. I once attended a silent meditation retreat where we spent hours in mindful tasks like sweeping or eating slowly. The lack of external noise allowed for such deep concentration that even sweeping became a joyous, immersive experience. Another key aspect is setting clear goals. When you know what you're aiming for, it's easier to lose yourself in the process. I remember participating in a pottery class, shaping a lump of clay into a vase. I was so fixated on the nuances of shaping the clay that I lost track of time. The clear goal of creating a vase made the activity not just repetitive, but genuinely captivating. Lastly, pay attention to your emotional state. Flow is easier to achieve when you're relaxed but alert. This balance can be cultivated through mindfulness practices like meditation or yoga. I've often found that a short meditation session before starting a task enhances my ability to dive into it deeply. On a spiritual level, many cultures speak of the importance of being present in the moment. In Zen Buddhism, for example, every action can be a form of meditation if done with full awareness. Isn't it liberating to think that your daily chores can be transformed into moments of profound engagement and even joy? Finding flow in everyday activities isn't about adding more to your to-do list. It's about changing how you approach what's already there. It's about recognizing that even the most ordinary tasks have the potential to bring extraordinary satisfaction. As you integrate these practices into your life, you might find that those mundane moments are not so ordinary after all. They may just become the most enriching parts of your day. Chapter 15. The Journey Continues. Embracing the Uncertain Future. Have you ever stood at the edge of an ocean at dawn, the horizon blurred by mist, and wondered what lay beyond? The sea roars softly, a symphony of possibilities dancing in the waves, each one carrying a promise or a challenge. The future, much like that boundless ocean, is both awe-inspiring and intimidating. It's easy to feel dwarfed by its magnitude, to let fear make us hesitant. But what if we could transform that fear into excitement, embracing the unknown with open arms? I once met a man named David while hiking through the Appalachian Trail. He was a retired engineer turned adventurer, someone who'd traded the certainty of blueprints for the unpredictability of nature. Over a campfire, our faces glowing in the flickering light, David confessed that his decision had been driven by a simple realization: I was tired of coloring within the lines. There's no growth in the familiar. His words struck a chord with me. How often do we cling to the comfort of what we know, mistaking it for security. We wrap ourselves in routines, draw boundaries to keep randomness at bay. Yet, life is inherently uncertain. From a scientific standpoint, entropy suggests that systems naturally progress from order to disorder, a principle as true for the universe as it is for our lives. In fact, research shows that our brains are wired to deal with change and uncertainty. It's an evolutionary trait that has allowed humanity to survive and adapt for millennia. But it's not just science. The wisdom of the ages echoes this sentiment. Lao Tzu once said, "A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step." The beauty of this message lies in its simplicity. No grand plan can guarantee you the outcome you desire. What truly matters is taking that first step, embracing the uncertainties and potential the journey offers. When we open ourselves to the unknown, we allow life to surprise us, enriching our existence in ways we've never imagined. In the book Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl, a Holocaust survivor, shares profound insights into finding purpose amidst unimaginable uncertainty. He argues that it's not the circumstances, but our response to them, that defines our quality of life. This perspective is empowering. It reminds us that while we may not control what the future holds, we do control our approach to it. Think of a time you took a risk, a leap into the unknown. Perhaps it was moving to a new city, starting a new job, or diving into a relationship. Recall the thrills, the anxieties, the moments of doubt and triumph. These experiences, whether they led to success or failure, shaped you into who you are today. They broadened your horizons, taught you resilience, and infused your life with a richness that comfort zones could never provide. I remember my own leap of faith vividly. Leaving a stable job to follow my passion for writing felt like walking a tightrope without a safety net. The fear of falling was real, but so was the exhilaration of pursuing a dream. In those uncertain moments, I found clarity. With every rejection letter and every minor victory, I learned to adapt, to persevere, and most importantly, to believe in the journey. So, how do we cultivate an optimistic and adaptable outlook on the uncertain future? Start by embracing change in small ways. Take up a new hobby, engage in conversations with people outside your usual circles, or travel to unfamiliar places. Every new experience is a seed of growth, expanding your capacity to thrive in uncertainty. Practice gratitude for the present moment, grounding yourself in the joys and lessons it brings. Mindfulness can be a powerful tool to navigate the complexities of change with grace and composure. As the fire reduced to embers that night on the Appalachian Trail, David shared another nugget of wisdom. Life is like this trail, he mused. There are peaks and valleys, moments when the path is clear and times when it's obscured. But it's all part of the adventure. The trick is to keep walking, to keep exploring. And that's the crux of it, isn't it? To walk our individual paths with curiosity and courage, to greet each twist and turn with the knowledge that even the unpredictability of life is a gift. The journey ahead is vast, the future a canvas of endless possibilities. Will it always be easy? No. Will it always be predictable? Absolutely not. But within this uncertainty lies the potential for extraordinary growth and fulfillment. As we stand at the cusp of tomorrow, let's pledge to approach it with open hearts and minds, ready to embrace whatever comes our way. For in the end, it's not the destination that defines us, but the journey and our willingness to face it with optimism and adaptability. So, as you move forward, remember, the ocean of the future might be vast and untamed, but it is also full of wonder. Dive in fearlessly, swim with purpose, and let the current take you on the adventure of a lifetime. Living in flow. Over the past several chapters, we've taken quite the journey together. We've dived deep into the core concepts of living a life in flow, exploring everything from the science of happiness to the spiritual practices that bring inner peace. Today, Let's draw all those threads together and focus on how to bring flow into the fabric of our everyday lives. Remember when we talked about Mihai Csikszentmihalyi's groundbreaking research on flow states? He described flow as the optimal experience where we're fully engaged, our skills perfectly matched to our challenges. It's that sweet spot where time dissolves, and everything else fades away. But let's not just leave it as an academic concept. In our recount of Diana's story, she found herself regularly in flow while preparing elaborate, heartfelt meals for her family. Food was her medium, but it became clear that the flow state could be induced in countless ways, through music, writing, or even day-to-day tasks when approached with mindfulness and passion. Then there's the spiritual aspect. We discussed how ancient philosophies emphasize living in the present moment and surrendering to the flow of life. Think of Taoism with its concept of Wu Wei, the art of effortless action. It's fascinating, isn't it? Embracing these timeless teachings can transform routines into rituals and stress into serenity. I still recall the time I spent in a small monastery in Kyoto, learning from monks who approached every task, from sweeping the floor to arranging flowers, with deliberate calm and attention. It wasn't about the task itself, but the spirit in which it was done. And who could forget the scientific angle? The neurobiology behind flow states is equally compelling. During flow, our brains release a cocktail of neurotransmitters like dopamine, norepinephrine, and endorphins. These chemicals enhance our mood, focus, and performance. One thing stands out vividly for me: a conversation I had with a neuroscientist friend who detailed her experiments. She spoke of athletes, artists, and even chess players displaying remarkable improvements when in a flow state, a testament to how this wasn't just a lofty concept, but a tangible, measurable reality. As we wrap up this chapter, I want to leave you with a final push. Applying these principles requires more than just understanding. It demands practice and patience. Start small. Seek activities that naturally draw you in and commit to them regularly. Ensure your tasks are balanced between challenge and skill, and cultivate mindfulness in your daily routine. I've woven these elements into my life, and the results have been transformative. The pressure of deadlines, the mundane chores, the often chaotic rhythm of modern life, all of it can be approached with a fluid sense of ease and presence. Embrace your personal journey towards flow, and watch as it transforms not just moments, but the entire tapestry of life. Sharing the gift of flow. Imagine a moment when everything else fades away, and you become so immersed in an activity that you lose track of time and space. That is the essence of flow. It's more than just concentration. It's a harmonious state where one's skills perfectly match the challenge at hand. When I first experienced flow, I was painting. Time seemed to stretch and bend around me, and all that existed was the brush, the colors, and the canvas. The transformative power of flow isn't a secret reserved for artists or athletes. It is a state of being that anyone can achieve. Whether you lose yourself in the pages of a compelling novel or decipher a complex problem at work, flow is accessible to all. Recent studies by psychologists like Mihai Csikszentmihalyi confirm this. According to his research, finding flow contributes significantly to happiness and well-being. Sharing flow with others begins with recognizing their passions and interests. One of the most touching stories I came across was that of my friend, Aaliyah. She had always been passionate about music, but never gave herself permission to pursue it seriously. "I'm just too old to start now," she'd often lament. One evening, over cups of herbal tea, I encouraged her to buy the keyboard she had dreamed of since childhood. It wasn't long before she was not just practicing but losing herself in the melodies. Her eyes lit up with a zest for life I hadn't seen in years. She found her flow. Mentoring someone into discovering their flow can offer a deep sense of fulfillment. The key is to listen and observe without imparting your own biases. Sometimes, It's merely about giving them the space to explore without fear of judgment. I recall a time when I managed a team of young writers. My goal was to help them find their unique voices. By creating an environment where they felt safe to explore their creativity, I watched as each member found their rhythm. Their productivity and satisfaction soared. There's also a spiritual aspect to flow that often gets overlooked. Many spiritual traditions speak of losing oneself to find oneself, a concept strikingly similar to the state of flow. Whether through meditation, prayer, or a walk in nature, connecting with something greater than oneself can pave the way to entering flow states more easily. It's as if, by letting go, you allow the universe to guide your actions seamlessly. One of the most profound experiences I had in sharing flow came when I volunteered to teach creative writing at a community center. There was a teenager, Jaden, whose life had been punctuated by challenges. Most days, he shuffled into the room with a sullen expression, unsure why he was there. After several sessions, I assigned a project that allowed everyone to write a story about their hopes and dreams. Jaden was hesitant at first, but as he wrote, he became engrossed. Hours flew by, and by the end, he had penned a tale that was both poignant and powerful. It was his flow moment, and it was transformative. The ripple effects of sharing flow are far-reaching. When you help someone find their flow, you not only improve their quality of life, but also contribute to a more engaged and connected community. Imagine a world where more people are doing what they love with full presence and joy. It's a vision worth striving for. In your own life, consider how you can create opportunities for others to experience flow. It might be as simple as encouraging a friend to take up a hobby they've shelved, or as elaborate as creating a nurturing environment for your team at work. As you share this gift, you'll find that it enriches your own life as well. After all, in the dance of giving and receiving, we often find ourselves more deeply connected to the rhythm of life itself. As I write these words, I am reminded of a saying that resonates deeply: to light another's candle is to brighten your own. In the quiet glow of that shared light, we find a deeper, more profound flow. Thank you for joining us on this transformative journey through in the Zone, mastering the art of flow. As we conclude, take a moment to reflect on the insights and practices we've explored together. From recognizing the call to adventure and embracing change, to understanding and experiencing the profound state of flow, you've gained tools to elevate every aspect of your life. You've learned to ride the waves of creativity, navigate challenges with resilience, and harness the power of the present moment. We've delved into the science behind flow, discovering how it boosts productivity and enhances our well-being. You've explored the depths of self-discovery, balanced mind, body, and spirit, and embraced the art of deep focus. Remember, the journey doesn't end here. The principles of flow are timeless and ever-evolving. Continue to cultivate your inner strength, unleash your creative passions, and live with purpose. Embrace impermanence, commit to lifelong growth, and confront your fears with courage. Living in flow is about more than just peak performance. It's about experiencing life fully and sharing that vitality with others. As you move forward, carry these lessons with you. Let them guide you, inspire you, and help you create a life filled with joy, creativity, and boundless potential. Thank you for being a part of In the Zone, mastering the art of flow. May your journey continue to be one of discovery, mastery, and fulfillment. Stay in the zone, and keep flowing.